Huh? Death spiral? When the needle of the vast ocean navigator pointed at the death spiral, he couldn't help but be a little stunned. This was because the death tree had said that the death spiral appeared from time to time, and every time it appeared, the location was different. Also, it said that few people could return alive from the death spiral. This should be a rather terrifying, forbidden place. Could it be that this was similar to the abyssal chasm in the raging sea, but was actually a teleportation channel? Han Fei felt that it was very likely. Half a month later, Han Fei had been wandering in the no-man's area for more than 10 days. As guided by the vast ocean navigator, he plunged into the uninhabited forbidden area. In the uninhabited forbidden area, there were many spatial turbulences, and some places even had an entire space moving. Therefore, once one entered an uninhabited forbidden area, he could only try his luck if they could walk out. However, with the speed of a great monarch, it was possible to forcibly tear open the spatial turbulence and kill a way out, but it would delay some time. Han Fei appeared in multiple spaces with the vast ocean navigator. Finally, on this day, he saw a spiral blue circle of light hanging in the sky. Han Fei had thought that the death spiral was similar to the abyssal chasm, but he didn't expect it to be quite psychedelic, like a strange spatial ripple. When Han Fei saw the death spiral, he didn't feel any suction force, as if there was no suction force. However, Han Fei wouldn't enter rashly. Activating the twin divine technique, Han Fei went to the death spiral with his white mist body. As a great monarch, Han Fei was naturally bolder now. Even his white mist body was comparable to an ordinary great monarch. He could certainly easily enter a dangerous place. The moment his white mist body entered the death spiral again, billions of suction forces seemed to suddenly appear in an instant. The strength of the suction forces exceeded Han Fei's imagination. Even though he had an unparalleled body, the moment he entered the death spiral, he almost fell apart. As Han Fei activated his original Great Tao and gathered laws, his white mist body barely stabilized his body. From the perspective of his black mist body, the moment his white mist body entered the death spiral, it disappeared from the naked eye. However, little black and little white's connection couldn't be severed by the death spiral, so he wasn't worried. With the strength of an ordinary peak-level great monarch, Han Fei resisted the suction force until he saw a circular, black hole-like barrier. Is it a teleportation channel? Han Fei was about to enter the black hole barrier, but in the next moment, a divine pillar of light rushed out of the black hole barrier. With just an instant blow, the white mist body that was comparable to an ordinary peak-level great monarch was instantly shattered and crushed without even having a chance to react. Puff! Han Fei's twin bodies instantly fused, and blood oozed from his 7 orifices. His vitality surged, and the injuries he had just suffered healed in the blink of an eye. Han Fei was shocked. It was definitely the power of a god. Just now, he seemed to be crushed by divinity and couldn't resist at all. Could it be that there are gods guarding the primordial divine race in this death spiral? Han Fei was unwilling to give up. A moment later, he used the twin divine technique again. Different from last time, this time, as soon as Han Fei entered the death spiral, he shouted, "I'm Han Fei. I'm here to restore the bloodline of the divine descendants. Please don't get me wrong." Puff. After dozens of seconds, Han Fei was penetrated again, and no one responded to him from beginning to end. "Don't you believe me?" It seems that I have to show the creation divine chain. After another minute. Puff. Hanfei was crushed again and his twin bodies became one again. That shouldn't be the case. If it was a guardian god of the divine descendants, he should have recognized the creation divine chain the moment he saw it. Why would he still attack me? Could it be that there is no god guarding, but just some kind of array? Once again, Hanfei entered the death spiral. But this time, he didn't rush in, but began to observe the death spiral. He could feel that there seemed to be another space in this spiral. The reason why this space had such a powerful suction force seemed to be related to the operation of the law of space. It seems to be purely the power of the law of space, but why is there divinity in the law of space? Without gods, how can there be divinity? Hanfei frowned. For the first time, he had doubts about divinity. Was divinity really born by a god? Only when a great monarch fused all laws, transcended the divine tribulation, and focused his mind, could he become a god. Only a god had divinity. That divinity should be a will of laws or some kind of rule emitted by a god. And the basic difference between a god and a great monarch should be a divine persona. Therefore, a divine persona gave birth to divinity. Or rather, a divine persona gave birth to divinity. But how did a divine persona condense? Law fusion? Hanfei's eyes suddenly lit up. Only by transcending the law fusion tribulation could one become a god. The divine persona was formed because of the law fusion. Didn't this mean that the divine persona was compressed by laws? This was a little similar to the compression of the star core of the supreme divine technique. Unfortunately, before Hanfei could continue to study it, he was crushed again. Although he didn't go deep into the death spiral, a divine power still shot out and crushed him. Once, twice, thrice. After Hanfei entered more than 20 times in a row, the death spiral suddenly disappeared. It faded in the void under Hanfei's watch and disappeared without a trace. Well, Hanfei was speechless. The vast ocean navigator was clearly pointing at the death spiral, but he was already a peak-level great monarch and couldn't enter it. Then who could enter it except gods? Hanfei even suspected that even gods might not be able to enter. However, Hanfei was sure that this entrance was definitely right, but no one could enter it, which could only mean one thing. There was something wrong with the way they entered. After repeatedly encountering obstacles, Hanfei didn't continue to search for the death spiral. Although he seemed to be able to comprehend something from the death spiral, he didn't know enough about gods. Therefore, it was meaningless to guess and deduce. After he completely fused with his origin star, he might feel something different when he came to the death spiral again. Since he couldn't enter, Hanfei didn't force it. As Lu Tianming said, the divine descendants were waiting for him, so they would definitely leave some clues for him. As for the West Wilderness, the easiest place to go was not places like the uninhabited forbidden area or the dead soul Gobi, but the ferocious god valley. It was the center of the West Wilderness, where the bandit god was. Even the Central Sea Divine Realm didn't dare to mess around there. Hanfei had already decided to try his luck in the ferocious god valley, but it was not so easy to get out of this uninhabited forbidden area. It took him half a month to find the death spiral after he entered here. When he went out, Hanfei forcibly broke through the void. After walking for only half a day, he suddenly perceived a team of 8 people. These 8 people were all at the immortal level, Furthermore, among them, there were 3 demon plants, 3 insects, and 2 guys holding strange compasses. Obviously, they were not from the West Wilderness. Divine Demon Forest, the Sky Spider Worm Valley? Han Fei's heart stirred. This was a coincidence. He didn't find the primordial divine race, but accidentally encountered people from the Central Sea Divine realm. Lu Tianming had said that the people of the Central Sea Divine realm were very valuable if they were sold in the ferocious God Valley. What he lacked the most now was resources. Since he became a great monarch, he had been so poor that he had to rely on energy crystals to make a breakthrough. Although the energy crystals were good, they didn't contain enough kinds of resources after all. There were only chaotic chi and ownerless souls in them. There were not many kinds of energy in them. If he absorbed too many of them, it would take some time to transform them. However, these people were all at the immortal level and should be worth a lot, right? If each of them could be sold for thousands or 800 high-quality refined stars, it would be almost 10,000 refined stars. Immediately, Han Fei was tempted. He transformed into the Giant King again. And his strength was at the peak of the immortal level. After all, a great monarch was probably famous. Even if he pretended to be a war giant, he had to be convincing. So, he put on the star explosion bracer, not fearing that someone would see through his identity. Not far away, the 3 strong masters of the divine demon forest sat cross-legged. From time to time, petals bloomed around them or vines appeared. One of the men holding the compass said, "Did you find anything?" The 3 people from the divine demon forest shook their heads. No, the uninhabited forbidden area is too big. The space here is complicated. More than half of the marks we left before have been minced by the space here. And there is no information feedback from the rest. A woman from the Sky Spider Worm Valley also said, "I didn't find anything either. Less than 10% of the void escape spiders we sent out survived. So far, we haven't found anything special about the uninhabited forbidden area." One of the women said, "I found a ruin, but it seems to have been looted. I haven't checked the others." Someone sighed. "In my opinion, let's just search for treasures. We've already discovered more than 30 secret realms and more than a dozen ruins, but we haven't found any trace of the primordial divine race." Another man holding a compass said, "Actually, even if we find it, so what? Although the descendants of the primordial divine race can't become gods, there must be many peak-level great monarchs. The few of us are probably not enough to fill the gaps between their teeth." A woman from the divine demon forest said, "No, even if it's in the uninhabited forbidden area, the primordial divine race probably won't dare to show up. They don't know if we have any communication items on us. Besides, if anything happens to us and we die, our families will definitely know. At that time, they will naturally suspect the uninhabited forbidden area. Therefore, even if the primordial divine race discovers us, they might not attack us." Someone said, "But the forbidden area had been searched 100,000 years ago, and people have been looking for it since. Except for a few death spirals, there are only large swaths of secret realms and ruins left." "Do you think it's the death spiral?" "No. The death spiral can appear everywhere. You don't have to come to the uninhabited forbidden area to find the death spiral. Besides, didn't a god-level powerhouse come out after entering in the early years? It seems to be the source of the infinite sea of sand inside. It's the place where the former god of the Sea of Sand released the infinite desert. Only by obtaining the inheritance of that god of the Sea of Sand can you enter safely. Soon, when the last person from the Sky Spider-Worm Valley recalled all the Void Escape spiders, he shook his head slightly. Let's go to another place. We don't have to be discouraged. Maybe the other teams have already discovered something. Hanfei was excited to hear that. There were other teams? The two guys holding the compass spun for a long time and finally confirmed a direction. The space in this direction is relatively stable. Let's go. Just as they were about to move, they felt a terrifying suppressing pressure descend at the same time. Before they could attack, a spear beam pierced at them from the side. Puff. 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 3 people were pierced through in a row and couldn't react in time. Who is it? The other 5 people were shocked and immediately prepared to escape, but how? Could Hanfei give them a chance? He blasted out the star explosion divine fists one after another, and they were sent flying. Under Hanfei's absolute suppression, the immortal level cultivators had no room to resist at all. In an instant, the 5 of them were seriously injured. Roar! Hanfei shouted and grabbed the spear that had already nailed 3 people. Its length increased exponentially, and it pierced through them one after another. In the blink of an eye, these 8 people were all skewered on the spear. One of them was holding a jade slip in his hand. He had just taken it out and was about to crush it, but unfortunately, he didn't have the time. After being skewered, they discovered, to their shock, that their strength had been sealed. At this moment, Hanfei walked over from the void. He grinned. The 8 of you, not bad. These people's expressions changed drastically. One of them stared at the star explosion bracer on Hanfei's wrist and said with difficulty, "Primordial divine race, star explosion bracer, who are you?" Smack. Hanfei slapped his head sideways. How rude. You recognized the star explosion bracers and asked me who I am. Is there something wrong with your head? The man was furious, but he couldn't do anything now. A female cultivator from the Sky Spider-Worm Valley said, "There are only 2 star explosion bracers. One is in the hands of the patriarch of the primordial divine race, Lu Tianming, and the other is in the hands of the deputy patriarch, Quan Tiangang. If the 2 of them want to take us down, they don't need to launch a sneak attack. You are their disciple, right? As far as I know, the primordial divine race hasn't participated in the battle yet. If you capture us now, it means that the primordial divine race has participated in the battle. Do you know the consequences?" Hanfei thought to himself, "I just want you to doubt my strength. Otherwise, it would be inappropriate for me to directly show the strength of a great monarch." Hanfei sneered. "You talk too much. So what if our primordial divine race participates in the battle? Since I've encountered you, don't even think about running away. However, I can give you a chance. 8 of you, take out 80,000 refined stars, and I'll let you go." 80,000? The 8 of them looked awful, and a female cultivator from the divine demon forest said, "Who in the immortal level can easily take out 10,000 refined stars? Fellow Taoist, if you need resources, we can each take out 1,000 refined stars." With a thought from Hanfei, the seal on the 8 of them was slightly relieved. "Okay, give them to me." The female cultivator from the divine demon forest's face changed slightly. Fellow Daoist, this is inappropriate, right? Let us go, and we will give you resources. Shut up. Han Fei reached out and grabbed, and the female cultivator was thrown into the sky. In the next moment, fist light soared to the sky, and the woman was blown to pieces on the spot. Even her soul-suppressing spiritual treasure was crushed by Han Fei. Rumble. In the sky, a great Dao crack appeared, and a rain of blood dyed the sky red. In the uninhabited forbidden area, many teams looked at the sky at the same time, their expressions changing. Someone had died? At this moment, on Han Fei's side, the other 7 were all shocked, wondering why this person was so rude and killed a person without any warning. That was an immortal level powerhouse. It must be very difficult for her to cultivate to this level, but she was killed just because she disobeyed this person? Han Fei was not the kind of person who cared about women. In his eyes, these people were just moving refined stars. It was good to use the example to educate them so that these people wouldn't waste his words. Han Fei glared at him. Just take out the refined stars. These people didn't dare to disobey. Han Fei didn't kill them, which meant that they were still useful. In fact, they already knew the outcome. The worst outcome was that they would be sold to the ferocious God Valley, but at least they were still alive, as long as someone from their family came to ransom them. This was better than dying. Immediately, they threw out piles of refined stars. Han Fei immediately grinned. Here came resources. Not only could he make a fortune from looting these people, but he could also sell them in the ferocious God Valley and make another fortune. Han Fei said, "Come on, I know you have a way to communicate with other teams. Tell me quickly, or you'll see what happened to that person just now." In the uninhabited forbidden area, a spear dozens of feet long was stabbed into the ground with 7 immortal-level powerhouses on it. Han Fei had no intention of putting these people into his origin star. As the saying went, sharpening the knife wouldn't delay the cutting of firewood. He hadn't found the primordial divine race yet, but he could get some extra income. As for killing an immortal-level monarch, in Han Fei's opinion, it was not a problem at all. One of the 8 people had died. Even if someone noticed it, they would only suspect that these people had encountered some kind of danger. Otherwise, it shouldn't be only 1 out of 8 who died. After all, this was the West Wilderness. Even if they were immortal-level monarchs, it was normal for 1 or 2 to die occasionally. The 2 guys holding the compass were elders of the Thousand Phenomena sect in the Central Sea Divine Realm. They could use space to detect nature spiritual treasures, so they could explore the uninhabited forbidden area. And the compass was also a short-distance communication device, just like the flame emblem of the Phoenix divine race. Perhaps the contact distance of this thing was not as far as the flame emblem. But although the uninhabited forbidden area was large, it was only a forbidden place in the West Wilderness. Its range was like the area occupied by the infinite mining area in the East Sea Divine Realm. While communicating with the 2 teams nearby with the compass, Han Fei set up an array here. 5 days later, a 7-person team came here, led by a female great monarch from the divine demon forest. The moment this person appeared here, she sensed that something was wrong. There was a mist here, and the abnormality of the spatial law was greatly reduced. Obviously, it was abnormal. The female monarch shouted, "Be careful. The law of space here is quite stable. They said that there is an unexplored ruin here. We have to be careful." The female monarch didn't suspect that she was ambushed. She casually waved her hand, and thousands of long vines appeared in the mist. Giant flowers bloomed and began to swallow the mist. Suddenly, the female monarch's heart skipped a beat. Under the sea of sand, fist marks that looked like exploding stars rose to the sky. Star explosion, divine fist? The female monarch's reaction was extremely fast. As she slapped down, a large net of golden vines pressed down. Bang! 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 Ignoring the others, the female monarch immediately retreated. At this moment, she naturally knew that she had been ambushed. No matter who was ambushing, he must be from the wild ancient race. Under such circumstances, she certainly had to protect herself first. It was not a wise choice to fight the savage natives in the West Wilderness. But at the moment she retreated, Han Fei appeared and slashed down from behind. Bang! Puff! The female monarch immediately spewed out a mouthful of essence blood. A divine will intertwined with flower rings appeared behind her, and a pagoda appeared in front of her. However, as soon as the flower ring divine wheel appeared, it withered in the blink of an eye and its vitality was extracted. Although the pagoda in front of him was extraordinary, the star explosion bracer on Han Fei's arm emitted a dazzling brilliance. Star explosion bracer? The moment the female monarch saw the star explosion bracers, her expression changed drastically. Boundless fist power spewed out of the bracer and Han Fei punched out, sending the soul-suppressing tower flying. And the fist light didn't stop and instantly branded on her chest, directly smashing most of her body into pieces. Puff! In the next moment, a spear beam pierced through him. This great monarch was only an ordinary great monarch, and she hadn't even reached the peak of the monarch realm. But the star explosion bracer could condense the star explosion divine fist of an extreme Tao powerhouse. It was obvious which party was stronger. The female monarch was shocked and wanted to resist, but she suddenly found that all her strength had been sealed. All of this happened in a flash. As soon as the immortal level powerhouses realized what had happened, they saw that the great monarch who led them had been skewered on a spear. At the same time, there were already 7 people skewered on the spear. After a while, Han Fei skewered the 6 remaining immortals on the spear too, and nodded in satisfaction. 5 days had not been in vain. The female monarch shouted angrily, "Who are you? Why do you have the star explosion bracer?" Smack! Han Fei slapped the female monarch's head to the side, making it buzz. "Who are you yelling at? I'm the disciple of Teacher Tiangang and Teacher Tianming. It's your honor to fall into my hands. Now, hand over all the refined stars on you. Otherwise, you've seen the great Tao crack a few days ago. I don't mind sending you to reincarnation too." After being humiliated like this, the female monarch's eyes were filled with anger and coldness, and she wished she could swallow Han Fei on the spot. "Did you kill my people? Has the primordial divine race joined in the war?" "Pa!" Han Fei slapped the female monarch's head again. "You don't hear me? It's none of your business whether our primordial divine race has joined in the war or not. Now, give me your refined star, or I'll kill you." The female monarch had never been beaten like this before. She still shouted angrily, "Do you dare to kill me? You caught so many people. Are you going to sell us to the ferocious God Valley? If I die, the Central Sea Divine Realm We'll definitely fight the primordial divine race to the death. Pa. 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 How arrogant. You're just asking for a beating. It's fine if you don't give. You're refined stars to me. I'll strip you naked and carry you all the way into the ferocious God Valley from the no man's forbidden area. With that, Han Fei grabbed and almost tore off the female monarch's battle suit. How dare you? Stop. Hey. How dare you still be so arrogant? Do you really think you're something? Rip. In the next moment, the female monarch's battle suit was torn apart, and her slender and fair thighs were exposed to Han Fei. Boom. Boom. Han Fei poked the woman's thigh with his huge fingers and said leisurely, "It's quite tender. I'll give you another chance. Hand over your refined stars, or I'll continue to strip you." The female monarch almost went crazy. She cursed in her heart, when did such a shameless person appear in the primordial divine race? However, this guy was too bold, and judging from his words and deeds, the primordial divine race seemed to have indeed joined in the war. At this moment, she was under his control, so she could only accept this loss. Immediately, the female monarch threw out nearly 6,000 refined stars in anger. Seeing that the great monarch had taken out her resources, the others also took out their resources. Pa. Han Fei burst into fury and knocked the female monarch's head askew again. Are you looking down on me? You're a great monarch, and you only have 6,000 refined stars? Do you think I don't know how many you have? Believe it or not, I'll destroy your origin star. The female monarch wanted to flare up, but she couldn't. She could only shout angrily, "What else do you want? Who will carry so many refined stars for no reason? Do you want to tear off my origin star and give it to you? If that's the case, can you still get the ransom?" Han Fei said, "I don't care. Anyway, you don't give me enough resources. At least double them. Otherwise, I'll strip you naked." You're simply unreasonable. Han Fei grinned. Of course. Have you ever seen bandits reason with others? The female monarch. This bandit of the wild ancient race had completely regarded himself as a bandit. Had the wild ancient race also established a bandit organization? How could such a thing become a disciple of Quan Tiangang or Lu Tianming? However, it was useless to argue with Han Fei now. The female monarch could only take out rivers of spiritual energy, spiritual heritage mountains, a large number of spiritual fruits, energy crystals, minerals, spiritual treasures. Is it enough? The female monarch was ashamed and resentful. If she took out more resources, she wouldn't have any money left. This was equivalent to more than 10,000 refined stars. Not every great monarch could take out so many resources. She was really bankrupt this time. Han Fei nodded in satisfaction. Good. If you had cooperated with me earlier, you wouldn't have had to suffer so much. Then, Han Fei strengthened the seal and lengthened the spear so that he could continue to skewer people. Another half a month later, 2 more groups of people came, but Han Fei was not so lucky these 2 times. There were only 5 immortals in one group, and there were 2 carefree level monarchs among the 6 people in the other group. Since then, Han Fei had harvested more than 34,000 refined stars and resources, equivalent to nearly 6,000 refined stars. This number couldn't be considered a lot, but the quality wasn't bad. He didn't know if this was enough for him to fuse the eternal darkness spiritual heritage with the ground veins and his origin star. Even if it wasn't enough. If he sold these people, it should be enough. Han Fei didn't continue to wait. Instead, he carried the spear that had been stretched nearly 100 meters long and fumbled for a way out. This was because he knew that no matter how hard these people searched, they wouldn't be able to find the primordial divine race. He didn't have so much time to ambush people here. After selling this bunch of people, he would naturally have other opportunities to obtain resources in the future. 7 days later, Han Fei found his way to the ferocious God Valley with a great monarch, 22 immortals, and 2 carefree level monarchs on his shoulder. As soon as Han Fei entered the range about a light year away from the ferocious God Valley, he found a group of bandits with more than 20 people. However, the strongest among them was only at the Dao proving level. They hadn't had the ability to discover Han Fei yet. Han Fei despised these people for being too weak. Even if he squeezed them dry, he probably wouldn't be able to squeeze out many resources, so he directly ignored them. When Han Fei was less than half a light year away from the ferocious God Valley, he had encountered bandits more than 30 times, some of whom were deeply hidden and almost escaped his perception. Half of these bandits discovered Han Fei. Han Fei let them discover him on purpose, but no one came to rob him. He was carrying more than 20 monarchs alone and had a star explosion bracer on his wrist. Unless the bandits were extremely confident in themselves, no one would dare to touch such a monster at all. In addition to these more than 30 groups of bandits, Han Fei had perceived more than 100 secret realms along the way, as well as dozens of various ruins. Han Fei sighed. The West Wilderness was indeed full of bandits, and these were only the bandits on one road. If the bandits surrounding the ferocious God Valley added up, God knew how many there would be. Probably didn't dare to approach the ferocious God Valley at all, right? But what puzzled him was that, although there were many secret realms and ruins here, with so many bandits surrounding them, would anyone really dare to come? Those who weren't confident probably didn't dare to approach the ferocious God Valley at all, right? After walking for about half of the journey, Han Fei was finally stopped by a group of bandits. Among this group of bandits, there was 1 immortal level, 2 carefree level, and 6 Dao proving level cultivators. There was actually no one below the monarch level. This scale of bandits was already a little surprising, giving Han Fei the illusion that only monarchs were qualified to be bandits. Because Han Fei didn't hide his whereabouts, the 9 people decisively stopped Han Fei. The immortal level bandit roared, "Stop. Leave 1,000 refined stars and we'll let you pass." These bandits didn't demand Han Fei to give them these people he was carrying. Once they wanted these people, Han Fei would probably fight them to the death. But if they only demanded 1,000 refined stars, this person might not want to cause trouble and just gave them to them. However, they didn't know Han Fei's personality. He had never paid a toll in his life. How could he give it to a group of bandits who didn't look strong? Han Fei was a little stunned. Although he didn't pretend to be a great monarch, he was at the peak of the immortal level anyway. Therefore, even if someone discovered him, no one dared to stop him. However, there was only 1 immortal level cultivator among the bandits in front of him, but they dared to stop him. He didn't know where they got the courage. Han Fei said in disbelief, "You stopped me?" The immortal level bandit leader shouted, "Of course. Is there anyone else here besides you?" Han Fei raised the star explosion bracer on his wrist and said, "Don't you know this?" The immortal level bandit grinned and said, "Of course I do. There are only 2-star explosion bracers in the entire West Wilderness. How can we not know them? Brother, I don't want the people you took down. Peace makes money. It's not too much for me to ask for 1,000 refined stars, right?" This person spoke arrogantly. He carried a serrated long broadsword on his shoulder, and his black gold armor surrounded by flowing light made him look particularly powerful. Han Fei couldn't help but sneer. "You? Who gave you the courage to rob me?" The immortal level bandit and the other bandits laughed out loud. "Can't we rob the wild ancient race? Although you're wearing the Star Explosion bracer. The Star Explosion Divine Fist is not the strongest ultimate technique in the West Wilderness. We're all from the West Wilderness. We've already given you a lot of face. We don't want much." Han Fei raised his eyebrows. "What if I don't give the money to you?" Law surged on the immortal level bandit's broadsword. "Then beat me." Han Fei was lost for words. These bandits were probably stupid. They knew his background but still dared to rob him. They were either very confident or really poor. The immortal level bandit roared and slashed down with his serrated broadsword. At that moment, dozens of sand sea dragons intertwined from the ground, looking terrifying. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. This person was very strong. The sand sea dragons were not fancy decorations. Each of them was a kind of knife intent, and this was not counting the broadsword in his hand. That knife was full of a will of laws, and instantly raised this blow to the great monarch realm. Han Fei raised his hand. He was a great monarch in the first place, so it wasn't difficult for him to use the Star Explosion Divine Fist. Besides, he had already fused the Law of Strength, so his control of the Law of Strength could be said to be perfect. He punched out, and the will of the law descended. Boom boom boom. With a Star Explosion Divine Fist, he crushed dozens of sand sea dragons and finally met the other party's strongest slash. Clang! The void trembled, and the sea of sand fluctuated. Han Fei felt a violent force surging into his body through the fist light. "Your methods are not bad, but unfortunately, you are still too weak." In the next moment, the other party's peak-level immortal level powerhouse flew like a star, crushing hundreds of thousands of kilometers of sea of sand. When the man took Han Fei's punch, he felt that something was wrong. This person was too strong. His law-breaking mystic broadsword failed to shake this person. It shouldn't be. In the next moment, the other 8 monarchs all activated some secret technique. Then, they injected all their strength into the immortal level powerhouse's body, and the latter flew out of the sea of sand with a swish. His strength several times stronger. However, Han Fei didn't give these people any face. In an instant, thousands of divine punches were thrown out. Seeing this, the immortal level powerhouse's eyes were filled with madness. Stars flickered around his saw-toothed long knife as if he had borrowed the power of multiple stars at once. This blow was even much stronger than ordinary great monarchs. Bang! 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 Boom boom boom. This place was instantly bombarded. Han Fei stood quietly in the void without moving. However, he was a little surprised. This bandit was too strong. With such combat power, he would be a top powerhouse in any other divine realm, but he would rather be a bandit here. Whoosh! The immortal level powerhouse's face also changed drastically. he admitted. That the star explosion divine fist was powerful, but how could it be so powerful? Since he dared to stop Han Fei, he naturally had a certain degree of confidence. His slash just now could be called a peak-level blow. Its power exceeded 20,000 stars, but it was still penetrated. This made him feel incredible. However, Han Fei was unwilling to let them leave now. He took a step forward and cut open the void where they escaped with an axe, cutting the void and blocking them. Han Fei said leisurely, "I don't want you to leave behind any nature spiritual treasures. It's not too much to leave 3,000 refined stars, right?" The immortal level powerhouse immediately frowned and gritted his teeth. "It's not too much. This bandit was really tough. He really took out 3,000 refined stars and threw them to Han Fei." Han Fei raised his eyebrows. "You're quite rich." The bandit curled his lips and said, "It's not that we're rich, but that we're incompetent. It's only natural that we were robbed by you, since we failed to beat you or escape. However, can I ask you how the star explosion divine fist can be so strong? You can cross realms to fight. But why haven't I heard of your name before?" Han Fei said, "Quan Tiangang and Lu Tianming are both my masters. I cultivate in the depths of the dead soul Gobi and run amok in the uninhabited forbidden area. Why does my name have to be heard of by you? It's just like there are so many secret realms in the West Wilderness. Can you know them all?" The bandit cupped his fists. "Impressive. Today, we, the 1,000-knife bandits, were defeated. Let's spar again when we have a chance." With that, the man ran away with his men. After a while, someone said, "Boss, isn't this guy ridiculously strong? Even with the combined strength of the 8 of us, we couldn't defeat him. And your combat power is already in the great monarch realm." The leader of the 1,000-knife bandits shook his head. "So what? If you can't win, you simply can't win. It means that we're not strong enough. Brothers, it's getting harder and harder to rob recently. Those people from the Central Sea Divine Realm are not coming anymore. They've all gone to the front line to fight. If we continue like this, our resources will be used up. I've decided that we'll go to the front line too. We can rob anywhere. Even going to the front battlefield to rob is fine." "Boss, you're crazy. I heard that the Central Sea Divine Realm has sent many strong masters to devour the West Wilderness. It's not safe for us to go there, right? Why don't we go to the Primordial Tower?" "That's right, boss. We can go to the Primordial Tower to kill the ominous. With our joint attack technique, I don't believe we can't get 100,000 energy crystals in 10,000 years. Are you crazy? If the ominous is so easy to fight, it has long been wiped out. 100,000 energy crystals? It's a question whether you can survive or not. Listen to me, let's fight on the head-on battlefield." It had to be said that the bandits of the West Wilderness were really tough. Han Fei had to fully reveal his strength at the peak of the immortal level. And in the latter half of the journey, he encountered 2 more groups of bandits. Fortunately, he didn't suffer any loss. Instead, he snatched 5,000 refined stars. At this moment, Han Fei was standing in front of a magnificent Earthsea sand city. This city was unexpectedly beautiful. The ferocious God Valley was built against a valley. Half of it was a city, and the other half was an oasis in the sea of sand. The city was extremely large, comparable to the divine capital dynasty. The divine capital dynasty was a group of islands, while the ferocious god valley was full of deep pit cities that scattered throughout, depending on the elevation of their respective locations. The ferocious god valley was guarded by a barrier. As long as one was verified as being from the West Wilderness, he could enter. Otherwise, if outsiders entered, they would have to pay at least a refined star each. There was no dispute about Han Fei's identity. With the star explosion bracer on his hand, no one would doubt his background. The guards guarding the barrier looked at Han Fei with respect and admiration. Everyone looked at the 100-meter-long spear that Han Fei was carrying, wondering how many resources it would sell for. Han Fei didn't think much of it. After carrying his spear into the barrier, he saw rows of rock dragons lying lazily on the ground. These rock dragons weren't strong. They were mostly in the sky-opening realm. The price was clearly stated. To hire a rock dragon for a month, one needed to pay a refined star. Oh, a guide and transportation tool in the late-stage star transformation realm? Seeing Han Fei and the spear he was carrying, these rock dragons seemed to have transformed. A moment ago, they were lazy, but now they were energetic and refreshed. Immediately, a group of strong masters ran over from not far away. Among them, there were many at the Tao proving level. However, these people looked a little strange. Most of them had horns on their heads, and their bodies looked a little like porcelain dolls. Are these from the dragon race? Han Fei thought to himself, that's impossible. How can the dragon race appear in the sea realm? At this moment, a lot of people shouted at Han Fei. Senior, I'm very familiar with the buyers of the ferocious God Valley. I can definitely sell them for a high price for you. Senior, use my baby dragon. He's very good. As soon as this person finished speaking, a rock dragon pulled itself out and roared at the sky. Senior, don't listen to him. I'm very familiar with the ferocious God Valley. I know everything about the ferocious God Valley, including the major shops here. Senior, I'm known as Mr. Know-All. Choose me, choose me. Senior, I charge very little. My service fee is only 100 refined stars at most. Bah, you call this a low charge? Senior, I'll only charge 50. I guarantee I can sell them all for you. This group of people was very excited. Only then did Han Fei understand that these rock dragons were raised by this group of people. Their strength was extraordinary, but they served as pimps in the ferocious God Valley. There was no telling what they were thinking. However, this was the first time he had come to the ferocious God Valley. It was indeed necessary to find a guide, which could save him many troubles. Han Fei glanced around, chose a late-stage star transformation realm rock dragon, and threw a refined star over. The rock dragon was stunned for a moment, but then quickly opened its mouth and swallowed it. Han Fei smiled. I'll pick this one. Ah. It's me, it's me. Then, a dragon girl with a horn on her head hurriedly ran over. Senior, I am Dragon Tamer Long Yen. This is my baby dragon. The girl's fair face immediately turned red. Obviously, she was very happy that she was chosen by a big client. Han Fei looked at the girl up and down. Why was a Tao prover so excited for a refined star? Han Fei quietly threw another refined star to the girl. The girl took the refined star and was overjoyed. She had made a fortune this time. As for the others, they sighed, thinking that this was a random choice. There was nothing they could do. Someone muttered, Long Yan is too lucky. Why was she chosen, not me? Someone sighed. Is it because I don't have a lowly face? Long Yan is almost the trademark of the rock dragon race. Hearing these words, Han Fei put on a faint smile, thinking that these people must have said it on purpose for him to hear. Although there was competition between them, no matter who he chose, the others seemed to secretly help the one chosen in this way, using these seemingly unintentional words to let him know that Long Yan was a good choice. Immediately, Long Yan asked, Senior, I'm now your personal guide. I can provide you with intelligence and communication services. In addition to intelligence services, communication can facilitate transactions. Under normal circumstances, I charge 100 refined stars. However, you are a big customer. I'll only charge you 50 and will definitely help you sell these people for a good price. Senior, may I ask what their realms are? Han Fei said indifferently, Oh. 1 great monarch, 22 immortals, 2 carefree. Level. Buzz. In an instant, the people of the rock dragon race, who were about to disperse, all turned around, their eyes widened. Long Yan's mouth gaped open in shock. Is there even a great monarch captive? When Han Fei told them the strength of these captives, in addition to the pimps of the rock dragon race, some nearby strong masters were also shocked. These people looked at Han Fei's star explosion bracer and his realm and already had some answers. Someone said, another lunatic who cultivates the supreme divine technique. No. One can become a god on this path, but he still embarked on this path resolutely. What a waste of his talent. Someone shook his head. Perhaps for some people, reaching the peak of the great monarch realm is already powerful enough. They don't pursue the god realm. After all, there aren't many god-level powerhouses in the vast sea realm. This guy's choice is actually not bad. Long Yan was stunned for a few seconds before she came back to herself and hurriedly said, Senior, ordinary people can't afford to take a captive of this level. But I have a way. Senior, please follow me. Little treasure, come here quickly. A handsome and slightly chubby rock dragon quickly came to Han Fei and prostrated. Long Yan hurriedly said, Senior, please take a seat. Han Fei's huge body that was 40 meters tall required the rock dragon to transform at least hundreds of meters long to not look too big. Therefore, a moment later, a rock dragon more than 300 meters long flew slowly above the ferocious God Valley. On it sat a giant 40 meters tall and a little lowly, only 1.6 meters tall. However, this scene didn't attract much attention. After all, this was the ferocious God Valley. There were all kinds of people here. Sitting on the rock dragon, Han Fei saw the tall mountain giant digging the sand in the oasis and then refining the sand into huge cube-shaped rocks. With some refining method. In the end, he stacked them into square bricks for use. Also, in the bustling city, there was an endless stream of pedestrians on the road. At a glance, there were sky openers everywhere. After passing by a few people, monarchs could be seen. Occasionally, Han Fei and some monarchs would look at each other. Different from the divine capital dynasty, in the ferocious God Valley, monarchs were not so mysterious, nor would they deliberately hide themselves. After all, the divine capital dynasty was actually a dynasty system, while the ferocious God Valley was a concentration camp of bandits. Indecent people's eyes, this was probably the capital of sin. Han Fei suddenly thought of something and said, Long Yen, help me prepare a map of the ferocious God Valley later, the comprehensive kind. Okay. I have a map. This is not a secret. I can give it to you for free. Since even a Dao-proving level cultivator personally served as a pimp, it would be ridiculous if a map was not for free. After all, their price was calculated by refined stars. It seemed that a refined star wasn't much, but it was something that sky openers dreamed of. 50 refined stars was a huge income for sky openers. It could even help them break through to the perfected star transformation realm in one fell swoop. Taking the map handed over by Long Yen, Han Fei perceived that it was indeed abnormally detailed. It actually was in three-dimensional form, almost copying the entire ferocious God Valley, and there were words marking many popular places. On the map, there were as many as 1,201 cities in the ferocious God Valley. 2/3 of the cities were built inside the mountain, and only 1/3 could be seen from outside. Han Fei also learned that there were a large number of arenas in the ferocious God Valley. There were more than 3,300 of them, covering all realms, and all races could sign up to participate. Near these arenas, there were a large number of cultivation technique books, body-refining spiritual fruits, precious medicines, and so on. There were even some shops whose names were directly called the unique techniques of the bandit god. These shops sold what the bandit god had learned in his life. Seeing this, Han Fei's heart stirred. In that case, he could set up such a shop in the human race like this too. He had learned a lot in his life, and many techniques were deduced from the demon purification pot. They were definitely of a high level. Besides these skills and techniques, what was the most popular in the ferocious God Valley was weapons. Perhaps because this was the West Wilderness. Here, there were countless secret realms and ruins, so the weapons here were generally of a higher level. Some shops could even directly sell nature, spiritual treasure level weapons. Of course, such shops were extremely rare. The primordial tower? Suddenly, Han Fei saw a tower in the middle of the map. It was wrapped in colorful light and looked extraordinary. And the introduction of the primordial tower really made Han Fei speechless. In front of the primordial tower, there was a huge stone stele engraved with the words, "A real bandit dares to face the cruelty of the primordial tower. If you want resources, come to the primordial tower. If you want to gain experience, come to the primordial tower. If you want the inheritance of the bandit god, come to the primordial tower. In a nutshell, if you want to become stronger, come to the primordial tower." Interesting. Han Fei put away the map of the ferocious God Valley, only to see that the rock dragon was taking him to shuttle from city to city. Han Fei couldn't help but ask curiously, "Where are you taking me to sell these people?" Long Yen hurriedly said, "Senior, we're not going to find buyers, but to find a private auction house. There aren't many places that can buy these captives in one go, so the best target is the arena. These captives will enter the arena to make money for the boss of the arena. They won't be allowed to be ransomed until they earn a certain amount of money. And there are less than 50 qualified arenas in the entire ferocious God Valley. There are a total of 13 arenas that can support the battle of great monarchs. If I've guessed right, these 13 arenas must have known that you are going to sell these people. They will come to whichever auction house we go to. My master, the rock dragon, Bandit, has a private auction house. I can borrow it and you don't need to pay any service fee. There are also tea, spiritual fruits, comfortable seats, auctioneer, resource appraisers, and so on there. Oh, really? For free? Long Yen grinned and said, Senior, it's true. That's because the invisible benefits of this auction are a lot. For example, if you auction a great monarch-level powerhouse at my master's place, it will definitely increase the reputation of my master's auction house. In fact, my master will earn by exchanging a small benefit for fame. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. A real strong master indeed had an absolute advantage wherever he went. Look, the treatment was so good. After a while, when Long Yan took Han Fei to a gorgeous manor, a spiritual plant garden bloomed here. In the huge fountain square, dozens of immortal level powerhouses who had mastered the great Tao of water were controlling the fountain to perform a beautiful visual feast. A burly old man stood on the head of a rock dragon, followed respectfully by more than 300 attendants. However, most of these people were in the sea establishment realm or the sky-opening realm who hadn't entered the star transformation realm. Master. Long Yan waved her hand and shouted happily. The old man frowned. How rude. How can you lose your cool in front of a fellow Taoist of the wild ancient race? With that, the old man looked at Han Fei with a smile. Fellow Taoist, it's an honor to have you here. What's your name? Carrying the spear, Han Fei nodded slightly. You can call me Tianqing. So it's fellow Taoist Tianqing. It's an honor to meet you. I'm Li Yan. Fellow Taoist Tianqing, you're so young, but you've already obtained the inheritances of Great Monarch Tiangang and Great Monarch Tianming. You're really talented. Come on in. Li Yan was actually quite strong. His strength was at the peak of the immortal level, and it seemed to have been stuck at this bottleneck. Han Fei nodded slightly. He shook his spear and said, Then what about these people? I can't let them go now. That female monarch is quite strong. Ha ha ha. Little friend, don't worry. In the ferocious God Valley, a mere great monarch won't be able to escape. That's right. Brother Tianqing, you have the ability to suppress a great monarch when you're only at the peak of the immortal level. As expected of a heavenly talent. I admire you. TSK. In the past, I once had a drink with Patriarch Lu Tianming. If he becomes a bandit, there will definitely be top 4 bandits in the West wilderness now. One figure after another arrived. Han Fei looked over and found that they were all great monarchs. Li Yan hurriedly cupped his hands. Greetings, Great Monarch Lin Feng, Great Monarch Bai Meng, Great Monarch Shen Man. Han Fei also nodded slightly at them. Although he didn't know them, they were all great monarchs. Li Yan said, Great monarchs, please come in and take a seat. Fine wine, delicacies, spiritual fruits, and tea have been prepared. When everyone is here, the auction will immediately begin. Okay. Brother Tianqing, see you later. TSK. This female monarch is not bad. It's a pity that she's a demon plant. Otherwise, the female monarch, who was hung on Han Fei's spear, almost wanted to die. She had never suffered such humiliation in her life. She swore that she would definitely take revenge in her lifetime, and the wild ancient race would become her lifelong mortal enemy. After a while, the people hanging on Han Fei's spear had been taken away by Li Yan. At this moment, Han Fei was sitting on a super-large throne specially made for the war giants, holding a cauldron-like wine cup in his hand, which was filled with good wine with spiritual fruits soaked in. Long Yan stood respectfully beside Han Fei and said, "Senior, everyone has arrived. A total of 13 great monarchs and more than 30 immortals have come. Please wait a moment. It won't be long before the auction begins." Han Fei nodded slightly, thought for a moment, and threw out more than 70 spiritual treasures. "Take these two and auction them together." Wow! Long Yan's eyes widened. There were so many treasures. There were as many as 24 nature spiritual treasures, nearly 50 chaotic spiritual treasures, connate spiritual treasures, and so on. Was this person so rich? Long Yan immediately said solemnly, "Okay, Senior. You can rest assured. I'll definitely get the best price for you. Okay. Go. Except you, no one can come into my room. Don't let others disturb me." "Okay, Senior." Long Yan hurriedly picked up the treasures and walked out, excited. She had thought that it was just an auction for these captives, but she didn't expect there to be so many nature spiritual treasures and chaotic spiritual treasures. This time, her master would make a fortune. Although there were many top treasures in the ferocious God Valley, nature spiritual treasures weren't something anyone could easily take out. She didn't know if her teacher could afford to buy all these weapons. If he could buy them and slowly sell them, he would definitely be able to earn more. Long Yan was letting her imagination run wild, but after Long Yan left, Han Fei immediately set up layers of seals. Then, Han Fei took out the vast ocean navigator. He materialized the map of the ferocious God Valley and immediately asked, "Where are the divine descendants of the primordial divine race waiting for me?" Han Fei believed that there must be some divine descendants waiting for him. Otherwise, if he couldn't enter the death spiral, how could he unseal their bloodline? Sure enough, the vast ocean navigator pointed to a certain place on the map. Huh? A restaurant near the primordial tower? Han Fei was thinking of going to the primordial tower to take a look. Since the contact was there, it saved him some time. After confirming the location of the person from the primordial divine race, Han Fei put away the vast ocean navigator, removed the seal, and enjoyed himself leisurely. This feeling of being a master was really awesome. He didn't know how much this batch of resources could be sold for. He still hadn't fused with his origin star. Just fusing his origin spiritual heritage with it had consumed him a lot of resources. God knew how many resources he needed to completely fuse with his origin star. He believed that he still had the ability to get the resources he needed in the great monarch realm. If it didn't work out, he could go to the dragon race to freeload. However, he had to accumulate resources now. It would take countless resources to go from the immortal level to the great monarch realm. Then who knew how many resources it would take to go from the great monarch realm to the god realm? What if he didn't save enough? On the other side, in the auction house, Long Yan's master, Li Yan, couldn't help but burst into a cold sweat. "It's over. I can't take these all. Yan, this client you picked up is too rich." Long Yan asked, "Master, you've been in the ferocious God Valley for so long. You can't afford to buy all these treasures?" Li Yan was speechless. "Girl, what are you talking about? There are so many." Nature-level spiritual treasures, all of which are priceless. Do you know how many refined stars these can sell for? No, I have to call some rich peers over. I have to take all of them. After about half an hour, an auctioneer finally went on stage. Han Fei took a closer look. Good Lord, wasn't this Li Yan himself? As the boss, this guy actually personally went on stage to host the auction. Li Yan smiled and said, "Thank you for coming, fellow Taoists. I believe you've already seen some of the auction items today. However, you might not know that in addition to the captives from the Central Sea Divine Realm, we also have some nature spiritual treasures at our Rock Dragon auction house today, so please don't be in a hurry." In a private room, a great monarch said, "Oldly, let's not talk about these formalities. Only we are here today. We're mainly here for people. Just show us the captives." In another private room, someone also said, "That's right, Oldly. There are no outsiders today. Just bring the auction items up." Li Yan smiled and said, "Of course. Only you can afford the captives of the immortal level and the great monarch realm. In that case, I'll just show you the auction items." Pa. Li Yan clapped his hands and two carefree level powerhouses who had been sealed were brought up. Li Yan said, "Everyone, fellow Taoist Tianqing only brought two carefree level cultivators. These two people are strong masters from the Fist sect and the Light City in the Central Sea Divine Realm. Their strength has reached the peak of the carefree level. If you buy them, they will naturally go to fight in your arena. Compared to the Great Monarch Realm, the carefree level is more cost-effective. In addition, since they are going to fight in an arena, they can keep their spiritual treasures. Therefore, the starting price is 1,360,000 kilometer level refined stars." Han Fei nodded slightly. Although the starting price was not high, the two were only at the carefree level. If he robbed them normally, he might not be able to get this number. Besides, the starting price was only the starting price. As long as these two people bid 2,000, he would earn 2,000. Only the Fist sect guy is worth the price. The Light City one isn't. Since it's a tie-up auction, the price is not bad. An immortal level powerhouse said, "Not interested in the peak level carefree level cultivator of the Light City. 2,500, the one from the Light City is a little weak, but I have a few enemies of the Light City in my arena. Why don't you give them to me? 2,800. These two probably don't have any good treasures. This price is about right." These people belittled the cultivator from the Light City, but they didn't hesitate to bid for them at all and exceeded Han Fei's estimated price. However, when the price reached 3,500 refined stars, no one bid anymore. They seemed to feel that a higher price was indeed not worth it. From beginning to end, none of the great monarchs spoke. Obviously, they weren't interested in these two. But Han Fei didn't care. 3,500 refined stars were not bad. It was even better than robbing. In the second round of auction, a demon plant of the divine demon forest was pushed out. Everyone immediately became enthusiastic. Li Yan said, "I don't need to say anything about the second one. As you can see, this is an intermediate immortal level powerhouse of the divine demon forest, who has stacked more than 600 laws. He's not weak. The starting price is 1,000. I offer 2,000. I'll pay 2,500. His belongings are worth some money. 2,000 is indeed too little. 3,000, after all, he's at the immortal level. Give him some face. 3,200. Han Fei was overjoyed. It seemed that the immortal level was really popular. After a while, the bid reached 4,200 pieces. Finally, a great monarch said, 4,500 pieces. This price is very high. There's no need to raise the price anymore. Sure enough, as soon as the great monarch spoke, no one bid anymore. Now Han Fei had known the value of the immortal level. He had thought that it would be good enough if he could get 1 or 2,000 refined stars, but it far exceeded his expectations. Next, round after round of immortal level powerhouses were pushed up. Faced with the bidding of a group of people, these people were ashamed and resentful, but since they were already in the ferocious God Valley, they could only accept their fate. However, among the 22 immortals, only one from the primordial divine academy and a peak-level immortal-level cultivator from the flying immortal tower were sold for 5,000 refined stars. The rest's prices only fluctuated between 3,800 and 4,500. The worst was the immortal-level cultivator from the 1,000 Phenomena sect, who was only worth 3,200. At this point, all the immortals had been auctioned, and Han Fei had obtained 95,900 refined stars. Due to the high quality of the refined stars, this was barely comparable to the harvest of an ordinary great monarch's origin star. And refined stars. Li Yan shouted, "Everyone, next is the most important auction item of the first round. A great monarch from the divine demon forest. Few great monarchs have been captured alive to the ferocious God Valley. Its value can be seen. The starting price is 50,000 refined stars. The auction begins. 60,000. The great monarch who came here spoke as if he had been prepared and replied almost instantly. 70,000. 80,000. Most of the immortal level powerhouses who came to bid smiled bitterly. It was rare to see a great monarch level captive. Unfortunately, this was not something they could afford. A great monarch said, 100,000. Let's start with this price. Don't bid below this price. 120,000, my God Sealing Arena wants her. 150,000, Brother Chen, your God Sealing Arena is so big. Isn't the price too low? In a private room, a great monarch said in a low voice, 200,000. Fellow Taoists, do me a favor and give her to me, okay? Hiss. Curses rang in many private rooms. Brother Gao, you're raising the price too fast. Brother Gao, are you really buying her for your arena? Ha ha ha. All the private rooms burst into laughter. On the auction platform, the divine demon forest's female monarch was trembling slightly. Shameless B** stards, a bunch of shameless B** stards. She swore that she must flatten the West Wilderness in this life. Han Fei, who was sitting in the private room, had already taken out his big pipe, drinking spiritual fruit wine and smoking the big pipe happily. If he had known that the great monarchs of the Central Sea Divine Realm were so valuable, he would have caught 2 more in the uninhabited Forbidden Area. If he couldn't catch them in the uninhabited Forbidden Area, he would have gone to the front-line battlefield to catch them. After a round of bidding, in the end, the great monarch from the Wild Arena, who had offered 200,000 refined stars, won the bid for this divine demon forest's female monarch with a terrifying number of 280,000 refined stars. Although there might be a million refined stars surrounding the origin star of a great monarch, in fact, there were usually only about 100,000 of them that could reach the 360,000 kilometer level. Han Fei had robbed more than one or two great monarchs, so he knew this quite well. It could be said that the price of 280,000 refined stars had already exceeded the real value of this divine demon forest's female monarch, even including her nature spiritual treasures and soul-suppressing spiritual treasure. She might not be worth this price. Besides, he had exploited almost 10,000 refined stars of the female monarch. At this moment, Han Fei could only say that he had made a fortune. Li Yan was overjoyed at such a high price. This would be his signboard in the future. However, Li Yan called out to everyone, "Everyone, please take a rest. Next, there are 10 nature spiritual treasures, all of which are the best of the best. Don't miss them." Han Fei, who was drinking fine wine, frowned slightly and then looked at Long Yan beside him. 10 pieces? Long Yan hurriedly explained, "Senior, the rarer something is, the more precious it is. If your treasures are released at once, it will only lower the price of the spiritual treasures. 10 pieces, no more, no less, is the most suitable. Of course, the Rock Dragon Arena will buy the other spiritual treasures at the market price. You can decide according to the price of this auction. In short, we will definitely not let you suffer a loss." Han Fei nodded slightly. Although this girl had her own thoughts, she was right. If he took out too much at once, it might indeed cause market prices to fluctuate. He was short of resources now. As long as the Rock Dragon Arena paid him enough money, it didn't matter if he gave the nature spiritual treasures to them or others. However, after this auction, to be honest, Han Fei wanted to be a bandit here. It turned out that another reason for the fact that there were countless bandits here was that these captives were very valuable. If he robbed a batch of them and sold them in the ferocious God Valley, he could become rich overnight. No wonder countless people served as bandits in the West wilderness. Han Fei only gave out low-quality and mid-quality nature spiritual treasures. He had obtained a lot of these spiritual treasures in the primordial ancient land, so he didn't care. Soon, he got a rough value. A low-quality nature spiritual treasures was worth about 3,000 to 5,000 refined stars. A mid-quality nature spiritual treasure was worth between 10,000 and 50,000. Generally speaking, there were very few immortals who had mid-quality nature spiritual treasures. Among these captives, there were only one or two who had mid-quality nature spiritual treasures, and their treasures had long been taken in by Han Fei. According to this calculation, the value of a high-quality nature spiritual treasure was definitely above 100,000 refined stars. However, this was reasonable. A high-quality nature spiritual treasure could support a whole sect. Its value could be seen. In the end, Han Fei earned 180,000 refined stars from the 10 nature spiritual treasures. Han Fei had earned 570,000 refined stars on this trip to the ferocious God Valley, although he hadn't found the divine descendants yet. This amount of resources was probably equivalent to the origin star of a peak-level extreme Dao Great Monarch. Long Yan often turned her head to look at Han Fei, secretly clicking her tongue and fantasizing. If she could become an outstanding bandit one day and rob a great monarch, she could probably earn the wealth enough for her to spend in her entire life. Gulp. Ah. Han Fei finished the spiritual fruit wine in the cup in one gulp and threw out a bag of refined stars. You did a good job. This is what you deserve. Long Yan was overjoyed and quickly took the bag. No matter how much others earned, it was theirs. It was useless for her to be jealous of others. However, when she scanned the bag with her perception, she was slightly stunned. Senior, there are 50 more. I only charge 50. Han Fei said, the others are my tip for you. They're not worth mentioning. Upon hearing this, Long Yan didn't reject. Who wouldn't want the money picked up for free? However, she still reminded him out of morality, Senior, you have too many refined stars at the moment. This matter will definitely spread. Therefore, if you want to leave the ferocious God Valley in the near future, you'd better get someone from the wild ancient race to receive you. Otherwise, it's very likely that you won't be able to walk out of the periphery of the ferocious God Valley. Han Fei thought to himself, that's good. I'll just rob those who want to rob me. Of course, Han Fei had no time to rob now. The most important thing now was to solve the bloodline problem of the divine descendants as soon as possible so as to start a full-scale war between the West Wilderness and the Central Sea divine realm. As soon as the primordial divine race reappeared, the Central Sea divine realm no longer had the power to suppress the other 4 divine realms. At that time, it would be time for him to enter the Central Sea divine realm. Under Li Yan's enthusiastic invitation, Han Fei stayed at the Rock Dragon auction house for a night and drank a lot of spiritual fruits and wine. In the end, there were nearly 60 chaotic spiritual treasures and nature spiritual treasures left. Li Yan offered a high price of 200,000 refined stars. Han Fei had no objection to this. There were only 24 nature spiritual treasures he gave out, and he had sold 10 of them at the auction. The rest were only low-quality and mid-quality nature spiritual treasures, totaling about 150,000 refined stars. And the prices of chaotic spiritual treasures below nature spiritual treasures were not so high. More than 50 of them were only sold for 50,000 refined stars in total, but Han Fei was satisfied with this price. That night, Han Fei received 770,000 refined stars. He was really rich now. The news that the Rock Dragon auction house had auctioned a great monarch level powerhouse from the divine demon forest spread throughout the ferocious God Valley on this day. The Rock Dragon auction house was in the limelight for a while. Li Yan took the opportunity to announce that the second round of auction would begin in a month. However, Han Fei was no longer interested in how Li Yan would auction the treasures. The next day, Long Yan still served Han Fei with all her heart. However, Han Fei didn't go straight to the primordial tower to meet the people of the divine descendants. Instead, he asked Long Yan to take him around the ferocious God Valley and introduce the ferocious God Valley to him. At the same time, Han Fei had another purpose, which was to evolve the time chain. In fact, he should have evolved the time chain a long time ago. After all, it had been a while since he obtained the 8th vine. However, the last time he evolved the time chain, he consumed 624 refined stars, which was hundreds or thousands of times more than last time. Therefore, he didn't dare to evolve the time chain again. Now that he had obtained a large amount of resources, he wasn't afraid of wasting them. He didn't believe that the consumption of this time would still be hundreds or thousands of times more than last time. In his origin star, resources were being consumed crazily. Han Fei estimated that he wouldn't be able to see the time chain upgrade for a while. Last time, It took 28 days. This time, it would take at least a month. Therefore, he was not in a hurry. Instead, he strolled leisurely in the ferocious God Valley. On the first day, everyone talked about Han Fei happily. People often looked at Han Fei, who had even captured a great monarch. However, after shopping for 3 days in a row, no one was interested. On the 5th day after Han Fei came to the ferocious God Valley, he said to Long Yan, "Let's go to the primordial tower." Long Yan thought to herself, "You're finally going to the primordial tower." She had never seen such a strong master come to the ferocious God Valley but not go to the primordial tower. After a while, the rock dragon carried Han Fei to the vicinity of the primordial tower. The rock dragon was about to fly to the primordial tower when Han Fei said, "Stop. Before going to the primordial tower, I want to eat my fill." "Okay, Senior. I can recommend a top restaurant to you. It's very good." Han Fei said, "Let's go to that tavern waiting for someone. The tavern waiting for someone?" Long Yan said in surprise, "Senior, I didn't expect you to know that tavern. This tavern is extremely famous in the ferocious God Valley. This shop has been open here for hundreds of thousands of years and can be considered an old restaurant in the ferocious God Valley. Although their dishes are ordinary, their refined wine is very good. If you like to drink, you can't miss this shop." But what? Long Yan said, "However, it said that only those who are fated can drink the tavern's refined wine. Sometimes, no one can taste it even in hundreds of years, and sometimes a jar of wine is opened every once in a while. I wonder what kind of fated person is." Han Fei asked, "The tavern's name is Waiting for Someone." "Who the tavern owner is waiting for?" Long Yan shook her head. "I don't know. If the landlady had met the one she is waiting for, this tavern might have been closed. I don't know what kind of man is worth her waiting for." Han Fei asked, "How do you know that she's waiting for a man?" Long Yan said matter-of-factly, "That can only be a man. In this world, if there's something that both ordinary people and gods have, it's feelings. Especially love, it's such a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, in the world of cultivation, everything is too cruel. Who knows if the other party can accompany you for the rest of your life?" Alas. Seeing Long Yan's sentimental look, Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "Did your lover die?" No. Senior, I don't have anyone I like yet." Han Fei. "Then come on, let's go and take a look." Long Yan grinned, patted the head of the rock dragon, and then flew to the tavern waiting for someone. In the ferocious God Valley, although there were many strong masters, there were also many strong masters who liked delicious food and wine. However, it was not possible for everyone to come to the restaurant to eat every day, so after Han Fei entered the hotel, there were only 2 or 3 tables of customers. However, the guests at these tables were not ordinary. There was a great monarch and a peak-level immortal among them. Even the landlady was a great monarch. At this moment, these people all looked at Han Fei. Long Yan didn't notice anything wrong. She felt that it was normal. After all, Han Fei was big. Anyone would take a second look at him. She couldn't help but look at Han Fei, who was more than 40 meters tall, wondering if there was a table for him to sit on. His bulging muscles looked like iron lumps that were about to explode. Long Yan couldn't help but think that her rock dragon race was the best. Although she was also a mineral-type life form, their rock dragon race wasn't big at all, and they were quite beautiful with porcelain white skin. If she became like Han Fei, she would be horrified. Long Yan asked, "Senior, should we become smaller?" However, Han Fei didn't respond to her, because he had already recognized the people sitting here. At one of the tables, a young man who was drinking tea was looking over with a smile. This person was Jiang Bai, who had almost ruined his plan in the miracle forest. As for the person at the other table, he was even more familiar with him. It turned out to be Chu Hao, who was sitting there drinking. Opposite him, a set of bowls, chopsticks, and wine glasses had been set up, but there was no one opposite him. Clearly, he was waiting for someone. The landlady was dressed ordinary and even looked like a village girl. However, no matter how plain her clothes were, they couldn't hide her beautiful face and the special temperament of a great monarch. Seeing Han Fei come in, the landlady sighed slightly and then took out a golden wine jar. Seeing this, Long Yan took a deep breath and said, "Senior, look, this is the peerless wine I mentioned." However, Han Fei still didn't speak or move. Just as Long Yan was wondering, Jiang Bai gently raised his cup to Han Fei, smiled, and said, "Fellow Taoist Wang Han." "Oh no, fellow Taoist Han Fei, long time no see." Chu Hao also said, "I've been waiting for you for a long time. I didn't expect that I would have to wait for you for 300 years. Long Yan was dumbfounded. Who were they talking to? Wang Han? Han Fei? Wasn't that the human emperor of the East Sea Divine Realm? How could the human emperor be here? Seeing this, Han Fei knew that his identity had been exposed. Although he didn't know why his identity was exposed, from the moment he stepped into this tavern, he knew that. At this point, Han Fei stopped pretending. His tall figure slowly shrank, and in the end, he was only one head taller than Long Yan. Under Long Yan's stunned gaze, a living war giant turned into an extraordinary human man with sharp eyes. She suddenly realized that this person was not a strong master of the war giants. Thinking back to the time she had followed Han Fei these days, she had discovered many times that Han Fei knew very little about the ferocious god valley. At that time, she thought that it was because Han Fei rarely came to the ferocious god valley. After all, the wild ancient race was very large. They didn't have to be familiar with the ferocious god valley. But now, she was a little stiff, because the suppressing pressure suddenly emitted here had reached a point where she couldn't resist it. Han Fei raised his hand and gently pressed it on Long Yan's shoulder. Instantly, an invisible force washed away the extremely uncomfortable suppressing pressure on Long Yan. Seeing this, Jiang Bai was slightly surprised. "Oh, you're already a great monarch? I'm really impressed by Brother Han's improvement in strength. It's really enviable that you became a great monarch in just 300 years. Long Yan looked at Han Fei in surprise. Great monarch? Didn't he say he was an immortal level cultivator? She suddenly realized that she seemed to have learned some great secret. If she sold this secret immediately, it would definitely be priceless. Perhaps she could sell it for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of refined stars. However, Long Yan was not stupid. Was she qualified to sell such a secret? No, she wasn't. Not to mention that she didn't, even her teacher, Li Yan, wasn't qualified. Therefore, although she knew that this information was very valuable, she could only keep it to herself. Han Fei looked at Long Yan and said casually, "Okay, your escort time is over. This matter has nothing to do with you. Don't leave the ferocious God Valley. For the time being. Then, Han Fei threw a bag of 100 refined stars to her and said, "This is the compensation for you." Long Yan immediately bowed respectfully to Han Fei. "Yes, Senior. I didn't see anything or know anything." It wasn't until Long Yan left the tavern that Han Fei slowly said, "I'm very curious. How did you recognize me? I think my concealment technique can't be seen through by you." Chu Hao said, "Sometimes, you don't have to see through your disguise to see through you. When you came to the ferocious God Valley to look for traces of the divine descendants, we knew it's you." Jiang Bai smiled faintly. "The West Wilderness has long been searched through by the Central Sea Divine Realm. I dare not say that I've turned this place upside down, but it's about the same. I don't think you can directly find the primordial divine race by coming here. Therefore, the best way is to wait for you in the ferocious God Valley. You may or may not appear, but this is at least the only choice. Fortunately, you came." Han Fei narrowed his eyes, thinking that the primordial divine race had caused this trouble for him. If they had long discovered that something was wrong with the ferocious God Valley, shouldn't they have told the wild ancient race how to go to the primordial divine race? Wait. Suddenly, Han Fei's heart stirred. When he came to the wild ancient race, Lu Tianming and the others didn't give him a chance to enter the wild ancient race. Logically speaking, since they were guests from afar, they should have invited him into the wild ancient race to entertain him, but they didn't. Instead, they tried to make him come to the ferocious God Valley. Did this mean that the wild ancient race at that time was actually being monitored, or had a god been paying attention to their? Han Fei's heart turned cold. If that was the case, the Central Sea Divine Realm would have set up a big trap. In addition to searching and fighting the West Wilderness with various means on the surface, they had also planned a big plan. Sure enough, the Central Sea Divine Realm, who could suppress the other 4 divine realms, couldn't be that simple. Jiang Bai continued, "You have the vast ocean navigator. Everyone knows this. This is your advantage, but it can also become my advantage." Han Fei casually walked to Chu Hao's table and chuckled. "Good move." Jiang Bai took a sip of tea and said, "You flatter me." Han Fei looked at Chu Hao. "Your race only sent you to the ferocious God Valley? Can't you send more people?" Chu Hao took a deep look at Han Fei. "Several of us came, but we are all being targeted. Now, the others are all in my origin star." Han Fei's pupils were constricted. He couldn't help but look at Jiang Bai. "How did you find them?" Jiang Bai smiled and said, "Of course I can't tell you how, but the bloodline of the divine descendants is very special. There are only this many people in the ferocious God Valley in total. It's impossible for the Central Sea Divine Realm not to find a few people here." Han Fei sneered. "But you haven't found the primordial divine race after searching for 100,000 years. Jiang Bai shrugged. "That's different. The ferocious God Valley is naturally incomparable to the vast sea realm." At this moment, the landlady came to Han Fei's table with a pot of wine. Her voice was elegant and crisp. "Try it. It might not be as good as Zhang Xiaoling's wine, but in terms of taste, it will only be better than his." Han Fei's heart stirred. Good Lord, the landlady immediately called out Fifth Senior Brother's name. She was indeed not an ordinary person. Han Fei, thank you. At this moment, Han Fei's mind was racing. He had really underestimated the means of the Central Sea divine realm. Now that he had been discovered, could he still lead the ferocious God Valley? He could even imagine that his current words and actions might cause a divine battle at any time. From Chu Hao's words, Han Fei knew that within a small range, the divine descendants couldn't escape the investigation of the Central Sea divine realm. They should have some way to distinguish the bloodline of the divine descendants. Han Fei chuckled. This is another one of your clones, right? Why? Our clones so cheap? How can you abandon them so easily? Han Fei was sure that Jiang Bai was definitely fake. If he were really here, he would have been killed long ago. Jiang Bai said indifferently, a clone is naturally used. I'm not stupid enough to come to the ferocious God Valley with my original body. Otherwise, the one opposite you would have torn me apart long ago. Han Fei asked, aren't you afraid that I'll tear you apart now? Jiang Bai clicked his tongue. How do you know that I'm only a clone? Han Fei said, it seems that your clones are really worthless. Then let's see how many I can kill. At this moment, the landlady suddenly said, in the Central Sea divine realm, the heaven-concealing divine race had a supreme nature treasure, called the concealing divine seal. This seal has the magical power to conceal the heavenly secrets and avoid all techniques. This is also one of the only supreme nature treasures known to be able to avoid the locking of the vast ocean navigator. The landlady said calmly, revealing why Jiang Bai was so fearless. Han Fei frowned slightly. A supreme nature treasure? Did this be *starred also? Have a supreme nature treasure? A supreme nature treasure that could even resist the vast ocean navigator. Didn't this mean that he would never be able to find this guy's original body? Concealing divine seal? Han Fei's eyes turned cold. I hope you hide well. Don't let me find you. I will. However, we don't have to be enemies. I don't care if the divine descendants revive or not. Oh? What do you want? Jiang Bai held a teacup and said leisurely, give me the demon purification pot, and the chaotic divine race, and I will no longer interfere in the affairs of the divine descendants. All grudges between us can be written off. What do you think? Heh. This time, Han Fei didn't even bother to answer. He reached out a void hand and enveloped Jiang Bai with the strength of a great monarch. The latter didn't dodge, because if he couldn't dodge it, why should he? Bang! Jiang Bai's clone was crushed by Han Fei's void hand. The terrifying explosive power failed to shake Han Fei's palm. Who could have known that an immortal-level clone would die in this small tavern in the blink of an eye? The *starred, how dare you covet the demon purification pot? At the moment when Jiang Bai's clone died, a rock dragon at the entrance of the ferocious God Valley lazily turned its head to the side and continued to sleep. Seeing this, Chu Hao shook his head slightly. This way, it will be even harder for you to find him. Han Fei sneered. Why do I need to find him? One day, he will come to me himself. Or maybe, he will never be qualified to come to me. Then, Han Fei asked, can we kill in the ferocious God Valley? The landlady said, it's best not to. It's easy to cause chaos. After all, there are still many weak people here. Once they're implicated, it will affect the reputation of the ferocious God Valley. However, it's not that we can't kill them. Just don't give them a chance to resist. The bandit god will only turn a blind eye to this. Then I'll kill them. I lack money. Although Han Fei didn't know how to address the landlady, she was obviously on his side. At this moment, he already knew that he couldn't leave the ferocious God Valley for the time being. Since he couldn't walk out, he would kill all the hidden spies of the Central Sea Divine Realm in the ferocious God Valley first. However, the landlady said carelessly, "No rush. Let's drink." Half of Han Fei's killing intent was dispersed by the lady boss's words. At this moment, Han Fei remembered that he hadn't asked who the landlady was. Han Fei asked, "Senior, you are? Don't speak. Drink." Huh? Han Fei was full of doubts. He had drunk too much good wine. How could he care about this sip? However, when he opened the wine jar, an enticing fragrance wafted into his nose. Gulp. At that moment, Han Fei almost lost himself, but calmed down in the blink of an eye. However, although he was calm, his thoughts began to run wild for some reason. He missed Xia Xiaochan, Shiman Linglan, and even Zhou Yingling. This wine. Han Fei's face changed slightly. He hadn't drunk the wine, but it could already awaken some feelings in the depths of his heart. What would happen if he drank it? The landlady poured the wine herself. Looking at the crystal clear wine, Han Fei didn't know if he should drink it or not. Opposite Han Fei, Chu Hao smacked his lips and said, "Lady boss, can I?" "No." Chu Hao sighed slightly and stared at the wine in front of Han Fei, a little envious. Han Fei was stunned. "Senior, this is too sudden. Who are you?" "Heh." The landlady didn't threaten Han Fei with force, but tried to persuade him. Although her tone was a little harsh, unexpectedly, Han Fei found that he couldn't feel disgusted at all. Han Fei immediately picked up the wine bowl and took a tentative sip. All of a sudden, Han Fei felt a smell of alcohol that he had never felt before wash through his body. Countless images of what he had experienced in the past appeared in his heart, including Xia Xiaochan's, Shiman Linglan's, and Zhou Yingling's. At that moment, in an instant, he experienced countless emotions such as happiness, joy, sadness, weight, guilt, and so on. Han Fei didn't expect this. This wine was simply terrifying. Who could make such a strange wine? No wonder the landlady said that her wine was more delicious than Fifth Senior Brothers. Han Fei only took a sip and didn't dare to drink again. But next to him, the landlady was looking at him, which made Han Fei a little scared. He thought to himself, "Aren't I here to save the primordial divine race? But why do I feel that I've been in a crazy relationship in the ferocious God Valley? Senior, what are you? Finish it. Aren't you confident with your Tao heart?" Okay. In terms of the taste of this wine, it was indeed unparalleled, but the feeling of drinking, it was also unparalleled. When Han Fei finished the entire bowl in one gulp, his expression changed so much that even Chu Hao was a little envious. It took Han Fei half an hour to recover from the alcohol. At the same time, he seemed to understand something. Seeing that Han Fei had finished it, the landlady asked, "Does it taste good?" Han Fei nodded with difficulty. "It's delicious, but I'm a little drunk." "What's the name of this wine?" Looking back, the landlady said calmly, "Every time Lei Hing came, I would open a jar for him. Six God also came once, but they didn't dare to come again. Azure Dragon once thought of coming to cause trouble, but after drinking a bowl, he left with a jar." Han Fei wasn't surprised at all that senior brother Lei Hen had been here, but why did senior brother Six God and senior brother Azure Dragon come here too? Besides, Senior Brother Azure Dragon wanted to cause trouble here? So, Senior, who are you? The landlady said indifferently, Inglinka, from the primordial divine race. I almost became your senior sister. Hiss. Hanfei immediately became serious. This person was a ruthless person who almost became his senior sister. This proved that her talent was clearly enough to enter the Void Temple. Hanfei asked, Senior you, why didn't you become my senior sister in the end? Yulinka smiled faintly and said with a sigh, sometimes, falling in love with someone will ruin your life. Hanfei, can you help me bring this jar of wine to Zhang Shaoling? Huh? Fifth senior brother? How could Hanfei not understand? Fifth senior brother loved wine as much as his life. Yulinka wanted him to bring him wine, and it was this kind of wine. More importantly, this wine was probably not easy to bring. Otherwise, if Senior Brother Lei Heng, Senior Brother Six God, and even Senior Brother Azure Dragon had come, how could he succeed? Hanfei said, Senior, I can try, but I can't guarantee that Senior Brother will take it, let alone drink it. Yulinka said, it doesn't matter. You can give him the wine when you gather. Just tell him that this is the last time I'll send him wine. There won't be a next time. Okay. Although Hanfei didn't know what the wine represented, he felt that there must be many stories behind fifth senior brother's heartlessness. He also hoped lovers can have a happy ending, so he didn't refuse. Seeing Hanfei take it, Yulinka was slightly relieved and then said, the Central Sea Divine Realm won't be able to find the primordial divine race so quickly, but Hanfei, don't leave the ferocious God Valley. It's not that you can't leave, but you won't be able to escape the pursuit of a god-slaying level powerhouse. A god-slaying level powerhouse? Yulinka said, if it were a group of ordinary gods, how could they be qualified to harvest the descendants of gods? From the moment you stepped into the West Wilderness, it's very likely that you'd been exposed. However, God slaying level powerhouses don't dare to attack you unless they want to die. However, although they won't attack you, they can use you to find the primordial divine race, so they're not in a hurry. Hanfei's heart sank. Sure enough, Lu Tianming and the others must know something, but they didn't tell him directly. It made sense. Although Lu Tianming and the others were powerful, they didn't have a god-level powerhouse guarding them, so they were inevitably afraid of god-slaying level powerhouses. It was for this reason that Lu Tianming made him come to the ferocious God Valley, and even gave him the star explosion bracer. Obviously, the star explosion bracer was given to him to show the attitude of the wild ancient race. Luring him to come to the ferocious God Valley meant that they were powerless to help the divine descendants. Suddenly, Hanfei's face changed drastically. Oh no, I've been to the uninhabited forbidden area and tried to enter the death spiral. Then wouldn't all this be seen by a god-slaying level powerhouse? However, Yulinka said calmly, it's useless. Even if they know that the death spiral is the entrance, they can't enter it. Even if they forcefully enter it, the space they go to will be wrong. Do you think the people in the uninhabited forbidden area are looking for the entrance? No, they are fishing for the divine descendants to take the bait. Hanfei felt a chill down his spine. The Central Sea Divine Realm used a great monarch-level powerhouse and a group of immortal-level cultivators as the bait? These people are really crazy. However, they didn't expect that the bait they released would be accidentally swallowed by him. Chu Hao said, when I entered the West Wilderness, I was also used as bait. Fortunately, shopkeeper, you saved me. Han Fei asked, then what should we do now? Isn't this a dead end? Yulinka shook her head slightly. There's still a chance. What? Yulinka looked out of the tavern and said indifferently, Primordial Tower. Primordial Tower? Han Fei's heart stirred. Can the bandit god take me there in person? Yulinka shook her head. The bandit god can't take any action. If he goes to the primordial divine race, won't it be equivalent to telling the god? Slaying level powerhouses of the Central Sea divine realm where the primordial divine race is? Han Fei was puzzled. Then what can this primordial tower do? Han Fei still remembered those words that a real bandit dares to face the cruelty of the primordial tower. If you want to become stronger, come to the primordial tower. He didn't need the primordial tower to help him become stronger now. It was only a matter of time for him to become stronger. As long as he had enough resources, he believed that he would reach the peak of the great monarch realm. Sooner or later. Chu Hao sighed and said, Han Fei, one thing is very cruel. We have to admit that the Central Sea divine realm has already set up an inescapable net. Whether you know the divine concealment technique or any other concealment technique, it's useless. The bandit god is restrained, the 4 divine realms are restrained, and the West Wilderness, including those forbidden places, is actually under their control. Unless the 3 temples come in person, if the Central Sea divine realm really attacks with all their strength, the 4 divine realms combined will still be no match for them. Now it's just that they don't want to fight a life and death battle. Han Fei narrowed his eyes and pondered for a moment. Is the Central Sea divine realm so strong? In addition to repairing the bloodline of the divine descendants, Han Fei still wanted to unify the sea realm. Now Chu Hao told him that the Central Sea divine realm was very strong, and the 4 divine realms combined couldn't beat it. Everything in the West Wilderness was monitored by them. How could he fight such a Central Sea divine realm? Han Fei sneered. It's already an inescapable net, but Jiang Bai, that B***starred, still wants my demon purification pot? Is he out of his mind? No. If he quits, it can indeed balance the power of the Central Sea divine realm and the 4 divine realms. Yulinka pulled out a stool and sat down too. While Han Fei was wondering, he heard Yulinka say, although the chaotic divine race is not famous, it's only for ordinary people. There's no real strong master who isn't afraid of him. This race already has god-slaying level powerhouses. On the surface, they have 3 gods. But in fact, it's unknown how many gods they have. Therefore, if the chaotic divine race withdraws, the divine descendants will really have a chance to withstand the pressure of the Central Sea divine realm if they join forces with the 4 divine realms. Is the chaotic divine race so powerful? Don't their strong masters have to go to the Sea of Stars battlefield? Yulinka said, they still have so many strong masters here after the 2 conscriptions. That's why Jiang Bai is so fearless. This is why we're too lazy to touch him. Chu Hao poured himself a cup of wine and drank it in one gulp. Therefore, although we know a way to return to the clan, we don't have a chance to return to the clan. Han Fei couldn't help but ask curiously, didn't you say that there are divine descendants in your origin star? If even the West Wilderness is watched by the strong masters of the Central Sea divine realm, how did you come out? Chu Hao said, it's precisely because we came out that the divine battles were Triggered. The first time, someone came out to receive you. After being discovered, the bandit god personally took action and saved them back to the ferocious God Valley. The second time, I came out to receive you and investigate the news, by the way. But I was discovered too and was saved by miss you, which also caused a divine battle. The other time, 2 god-slaying level powerhouses from the Central Sea Divine Realm were about to attack the ferocious God Valley by force, but were stopped by the powerhouses of the 4 divine realms together. Hanfei was stunned. Isn't it said that the 3 times the divine descendants were discovered are all because of those bounties, bandits, and whatnot? Chu Hao sneered. Nonsense, that's just a distraction. How can they find the entrance that you can't even find with the vast ocean navigator? The bounty, the encroachment, and the war are just to throw the West Wilderness into chaos. While the Central Sea Divine Realm monitors the divine descendants, they are also weakening the power of the West Wilderness. They even try to reconstruct the layout of the West Wilderness. Heh. After all, the West Wilderness has been independent for too long. Too many strong masters have been born here. The Central Sea Divine Realm is prepared to finish them in one fell swoop. This is the fundamental reason why the bandit god attacked without hesitation. Hanfei rubbed his eyebrows. Doesn't that mean that the Central Sea Divine Realm is invincible? Then in addition to the primordial tower, I can only use the void mark, right? Yulinka suddenly said, if you use the void mark, who will come? Lei Heng. 6 God, Dark Shadow, Green Lotus, Red Lotus, Zhang Shaoling, Azure Dragon. Except for Dark Shadow, who has become a god, there is no god among them. Even if they can directly advance to the god-slaying level, do they have the time? Hanfei couldn't help but look at Yulinka. He didn't expect her to know so much about the people of the Void Temple. Yulinka continued, apart from them, only 3 people from the Void Temple can come. But as you know, the 3 temples are probably very busy at the moment since the ominous has returned. Although they will indeed come if you use the void mark, doesn't your Void Temple value personal trials very much? More importantly, are you willing to use the void mark for an irrelevant race? Hanfei said solemnly, it's not irrelevant. My wife also has the bloodline of a god. If it's really necessary, I'll use the void mark. However, what's the situation with the primordial tower? From what you said, the primordial tower seems to be able to help us break through the net. Yulinka said, the primordial tower is a supreme nature treasure from the ancient primordial era. It exists for guarding the West Wilderness. The West Wilderness can preserve the land, ruins, and secret realms of the primordial era to the greatest extent because of the primordial tower. A supreme nature treasure? Hanfei was immediately energized. The supreme nature treasures he knew so far all had extremely powerful abilities in one aspect. For example, the distanceless gate could ignore distance. For example, the creation divine prison could suppress the gods. For example, the chaotic clock could seal all timelines. For example, the concealing divine seal he had just heard could avoid the locking of the vast ocean navigator. Although the vast ocean navigator wasn't confirmed as a supreme nature treasure, its abilities were of the same level. Now, the primordial tower that could guard a territory appeared. Hanfei asked, what should I do? At this moment, Yulinka said, obtaining the strongest achievement of a random trial in the primordial tower, you'll be recognized by it. Hanfei raised his eyebrows. Doesn't the primordial tower belong to the bandit god? Ulinka said, the primordial tower doesn't belong to anyone. It only belongs to the West Wilderness, and its existence is only for this land. However, this doesn't mean that outsiders can't use the primordial tower. The primordial tower is known as the strongest trial ground below the god realm. Now, the primordial tower has 7 trials. If you can achieve the strongest achievement in any of the trials, you can obtain the right to use the primordial tower once. After obtaining the right to use the primordial tower, even if the primordial divine race is discovered, the Central Sea divine realm can't do anything. This is because even a god-slaying level powerhouse can't shake the protection of the primordial tower. Huh? Hanfei was deep in thought and was a little interested. Chu Hao said, don't be happy too early. I've been here for 300 years. In any trial, not to mention the strongest, I can't even enter the top 10. My best one is only ranked 51 st. As he spoke, Chu Hao looked at Han Fei deeply, but to his surprise, he didn't see any surprise or shock on Han Fei's face. Instead, Han Fei was even a little excited. Chu Hao said, I know you've taken the supreme divine technique, but what I want to tell you is that even the bandit god, a god-slaying level powerhouse, only got first place in one trial. Which one? Dead Soul Gobi, survival trial. Chu Hao immediately handed over a jade slip. This is the trial contents of the primordial tower and some of my data for your reference. Han Fei scanned around with his perception and was a little surprised. There were 7 trials in the primordial tower. They were the ominous battlefield, the speed trial in the eye of the storm, the primordial giant beast challenge, the competition of the myriad races in the Golden City, the survival trial in the Dead Soul Gobi, the physique trial in the endless quicksand, and the mysterious primordial mystic trial. Among them, except for the mysterious primordial mystic trial, the other 6 trials were completely equal regardless of level. You could go to these 6 trials, but the basic conditions of the trial were the sea establishment realm. It didn't provide trials below the sea establishment realm. As for the challenge conditions of the mysterious primordial mystic trial, they were relatively harsh. One had to reach the strongest achievement of any of the 6 other trials to challenge it. Apart from the ominous battlefield and the primordial mystic trial, the trials given by the primordial tower were all held in the forbidden places in the West Wilderness. Among them, the only benefit was that on the ominous battlefield, every time a trial taker killed 100 ominous creatures of his same realm, he could obtain the help of the primordial tower once. When there was an accident that might make you die in the trial, the primordial tower would help you escape death. However, it was extremely difficult to kill 100 ominous creatures of one same realm. For example, Han Fei was now in the Great Monarch realm, and he had to kill 100 world-ending level ominous creatures in exchange for the protection of the primordial tower once. For most people, this was a difficult condition to achieve. However, the only benefit of the trial in the primordial tower was that it saved him the trouble of teleportation. Since he could leave the ferocious god valley through the primordial tower, he could also return to the ferocious god valley through the primordial tower. Of course, the premise of teleportation was that you had to be within the trial range of the primordial tower. Han Fei immediately understood. No wonder they said that if you wanted to become stronger, you should go to the primordial tower. At least, the people in the primordial tower didn't have to worry that he would be robbed on the way after they gained resources. However, this was probably why there were so many strong masters in the West. Wilderness. People who had been fighting the ominous since they entered the sea establishment realm had to be strong. At the entrance of the ominous battlefield of the primordial tower, there was a ranking stone tablet, which recorded the situation of the top 100 of the trial. Chu Hao gave him his data for reference. Han Fei glanced at it. This guy had killed 32 world-ending level ominous creatures and 682 destruction level ominous creatures in one day. This number was actually a lot. Being able to kill so many in one day was enough to prove Chu Hao's strength. Unfortunately, he couldn't even enter the top 100. The data of the last place on the stele was 87 world-ending level ominous creatures and 2,432 destruction level ominous creatures. As for the first place on the stone stele, he actually knew him. The name was Li Daoi. Wasn't this the person Chen Lingsu was waiting for? According to his data, he killed 3 doomsday-level ominous creatures, 3,200 world-ending level ominous creatures, and 220,126 destruction-level ominous creatures. **T. Yes, when Han Fei saw this number, he couldn't help being surprised. Who is Li Daoi? Yulinka said, that's a figure from a long time ago. No one knows which era he was born in. Anyway, his name has been branded on the primordial tower since the moment it appeared. No one has ever surpassed him. Did he kill all these just in one day? Chu Hao said, you are the owner of the demon purification pot, so you should know the demon purification pot's ability to kill ominous creatures. However, Li Daoi's kill count is still too terrifying. It's not impossible for a great monarch to kill a god. Perhaps his cultivation method can completely subdue ominous creatures. However, world-ending level ominous creatures are also extremely intelligent. They won't charge fearlessly, so no one knows how this person did it. Han Fei suspected that Li Daoi might have once owned the demon purification pot. Otherwise, it was difficult to explain how he could kill so many ominous creatures in a day. However, Han Fei continued to read and found that the 5th person had killed more than 200,000 destruction-level ominous creatures, and these people had all killed a doomsday-level ominous creature. Are these all the former owners of the demon purification pot? Looking further down, Han Fei saw Yulinka's name in 6th place. Her data was 1 doomsday-level ominous creature, 800 world-ending level ominous creatures, and 20,882 destruction-level ominous creatures. Han Fei couldn't help looking at Yulinka. Although this data was naturally incomparable to the top 5, the 2 people in front of him had really killed an doomsday-level ominous creature that was comparable to a god. More importantly, she didn't have the demon purification pot. Yulinka said calmly, don't be surprised. That's because you don't know where the primordial tower sent you. There, you have endless ominous creatures to kill, as if you can never kill them all. With the demon purification pot, you can only kill more than me. Han Fei said, but I can't kill doomsday-level ominous creatures now. Chu Hao smiled and said, how long have you been cultivating? And you already want to kill an ominous creature at the level of a god? Han Fei curled his lips and then saw Lei Heng's name on the 7th list. His data was 1 doomsday-level ominous creature, 728 world-ending level ominous creatures, and 19,908 ominous creatures. He retracted his mind. He probably could only try it when he became a peak level great monarch. But even if he was a peak-level great monarch, he wasn't sure if he could enter the top 5. This was because the demon purification pot was not complete yet. It only had more than 50,000 kills in one go. Even if he mastered the law of life, he couldn't guarantee that he could reach the top 5. Besides, even if he made it to the top 5, so what? Li Daoyi had killed 3 doomsday-level ominous creatures. If he wanted to surpass this guy, he had to kill at least 3 doomsday-level ominous creatures. Han Fei thought that he should skip this first. Then he looked at the other trials, but among the 7 trials, only the one in the Golden City had a ranking. The other 5 trials didn't have a ranking stone steel, only the name of the strongest. He didn't know any of these records. Li Daoyi seemed to have only set an almost unbreakable record on the ominous battlefield. As for Chu Hao, he was ranked 51st in the competition of the myriad races in the Golden City. Although Han Fei had never experienced it, the trial was definitely not simple. When Han Fei glanced at the information, Chu Hao said, "As you can see, it's useless to be hasty now. Your physique is very strong. You can try the physique trial of the infinite quicksand." Han Fei looked at the record holder of the infinite quicksand. It was a guy named Zhang Shen. He couldn't help but ask, "Who is this Zhang Shen?" Yulinka said, "You didn't guess wrong. The god of war of the wild ancient race is surnamed Zhan." Han Fei immediately shook his head. "Forget it. I think I have to cultivate again." Chu Hao and Yulinka were helpless. This couldn't be helped. Although they knew that it was difficult to obtain the strongest result in one of the trials, they had no choice. But they didn't know that Han Fei said that he still had to cultivate, not because he was afraid, but because he really still had to cultivate. Han Fei didn't think he was weaker than these people. For example, he didn't agree with the way the god of war fused with his origin star. Besides, the god of war wasn't qualified to cultivate the god-fiend body, so if he really reached the peak of the great monarch realm, he didn't believe that he would be weaker than the god of war. Han Fei didn't think it was difficult to break the record of the god of war. However, he had just entered the great monarch realm. If he competed with the god of war now, he would only be asking for trouble. Han Fei looked at Yulinka. "Senior Yu, can I borrow this place to cultivate for the time being?" Yulinka, "Okay, but don't miss the gathering of the Void Temple." Chu Hao asked, "How long are you going to cultivate?" Han Fei said, "It depends. There are 7 trials and 7 records. I don't believe I can't break any of them." Chu Hao said, "I just want to remind you that Zhang Xuanyu, Lu Renquang, and the others are in the trial. They've been waiting for you in the Ferocious God Valley for almost 300 years. How many of them?" Han Fei's face suddenly changed slightly. If the entire West Wilderness was watched by god-slaying level powerhouses, would something happen to Xia Xiaochan and the others, because of him? After all, Xia Xiaochan was a descendant of a god. If there was a chance, the Central Sea Divine Realm probably wouldn't let her go. Chu Hao said, 3. Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang were sent over by Zhan Nani. Like me, Xia Xiaochan was personally brought back by Boss Yu. Otherwise, she might have fallen into Jiang Bai's hands. F***ck. Han Fei couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. He had to kill Jiang Bai. In order to target him, this guy would use any means now. Han Fei took out a fishing pole without hesitation and threw it into the time river. In the next moment, he fished out Jiangbai's immortal-level clone. Then, the void lines attached to the clone. Unfortunately, some of his memories of this identity had been severed, and he couldn't find any information about Jiangbai's original body from these memories. But Han Fei still didn't give up. In his eyes, the law of time was activated. He tried to trace back time from this clone. But in the next moment, he found that time was messed up and couldn't be crossed at all. Seeing that the law of time didn't work, Han Fei didn't stop probing but took out the vast ocean navigator, although Yu Linka and the others said that Jiangbai had the concealing divine seal. However, he had to try. Sure enough, the vast ocean navigator didn't turn. Han Fei asked again, where is Jiangbai's clone in the ferocious god valley? The vast ocean navigator still didn't turn. Chu Hao said, there's no need to try. Since he dares to appear here, he must be completely prepared. Han Fei sneered. As long as someone has existed, there must be traces. Then, Han Fei activated the law of life and inserted a hand into the clone's body. In the next moment, his consciousness saw the phantom of a flowing river of life in a branch of the river of life. Since it was Jiangbai's clone, it shared the river of life with his original body. Sure enough, Han Fei found the tributary of this river of life and then saw a rock dragon lying on the ground. Swish! Han Fei's figure instantly disappeared from the tavern. Yu Linka and Chu Hao's expressions changed slightly as they followed him out. The moment Han Fei found the river of life, at the entrance of the ferocious God Valley, a rock dragon suddenly burst out and quickly rushed out of the ferocious God Valley. Hey, you, stop! In a flash, Han Fei had arrived. This time, Han Fei had no intention of hiding his strength at all. He slashed out with all his strength with the blood sky blade, and outside the ferocious God Valley, countless rule chains extended from the void and grabbed at Jiangbai, who had already turned into a human. As for Jiangbai, his face sank for the first time. He had that supreme nature treasure. Why was he still discovered? At that moment, Jiangbai finally showed his true strength. He was a peak level great monarch and was even faster than Han Fei. The life chains had no time to stop him. As Jiangbai pushed back, the phantom of a god appeared and pressed at Han Fei with one palm. However, Yu Linka's reaction was even faster. She slashed out, and the laws here all stopped, as if a boundless ravine bloomed between the heavens and earth. Yu Linka blocked the blow of the god, and a divine shadow also appeared behind Chu Hao. An arrow shot out, and the sea of sand collapsed. However, a mysterious seal appeared on Jiangbai's body, protecting him like a rune bell shadow. Clang! After a heavy blow, Jiangbai suddenly spat out a mouthful of essence blood. And the rune bell shadow almost dissipated. Clang! Clang! At this moment, Han Fei's full-strength slash finally arrived because Chu Hao blocked Jiangbai for a moment. This knife contained the time arcane technique, so when it hit, it slashed twice in a row, but it only shattered the rune bell shadow that was about to shatter. Han Fei knew that with his current strength, he probably couldn't kill Jiangbai. However, the law enforcement divine chain had already jumped out, ignoring all seals. As long as Jiangbai was caught, he wouldn't be able to escape. But at that moment, the space seemed to stop, and a divine light appeared. A figure stood in front of Jiangbai and casually waved his hand, sending the law enforcement divine chain flying. Humph! With a cold snort, Yu Linka, Chu Hao, and Han Fei all grunted and vomited. Essence blood. Yulinka and Chu Hao were naturally stronger than the current Han Fei, but even so, the two of them still seemed to be seriously injured. As for Han Fei, he was directly forced to use the great Tao of life. Replacement. How awe-inspiring of the chaotic divine race to show up in my ferocious god valley. Suddenly, a voice sounded. The environment suddenly changed, as if there was only an endless sea of sand left. The entire sky turned into a fist mark that blasted at the figure in front of Jiang Bai. Bandit god, how long can you protect them? The man raised his hand and raised a palm. With a bang, billowing ripples swept in all directions. The man seemed to be holding up the entire sky with one hand. The bandit god scoffed. It's none of your business. You can try attacking again. As the power of the bandit god suddenly shook, the divine fist that was like the world suddenly pressed down, and there was only boundless rolling quicksand left in this sea of sand. By the time Han Fei and the others came back to their senses, they had already returned to the city of ferocious God Valley. In the ears of Han Fei and the other two, the voice of the bandit god sounded. It's fine if he ran away. You can solve this person yourself in the future. Yulinka said, thank you, bandit god. Don't thank me. I'll beat up anyone from the Central Sea Divine Realm. Many people didn't expect a sudden battle outside the ferocious God Valley. Except for the great monarchs, the others only felt the terrifying killing intent outside the ferocious God Valley. When they all looked out, the bandit god had already taken action. Outside the ferocious God Valley, it was dark, and they couldn't see anything. The bandit god has taken action? Who is it? Who is worth the bandit god taking action personally? What a terrifying power. I felt like I was suffocated just now. Look, who are the three people at the door? Huh? Isn't that Yulinka, the boss of the tavern who is waiting for someone? Did she participate in the battle just now? Huh? That young man looks familiar. I seem to have seen him somewhere before. Of course. Isn't that Wang Han who caused havoc in the South Sea? Oh, no. Is it Han Fei who caused havoc in the South Sea? He pretended to be a strong master of our West Wilderness. His portrait has long spread throughout the West Wilderness. Ah, isn't he only at the immortal level? But how can an immortal level cultivator cause that commotion just now? The guardian of the divine prison. How can you and I be qualified to judge such an abnormal powerhouse? At this moment, the great monarchs who saw this battle were all shocked. The others only knew that the bandit god had taken action, but they had personally seen how Han Fei and the other two took action. Not to mention that Yulinka blocked the projection of a god alone and Chu Hao used the projection of a god, just the ultimate explosive power of Han Fei's slash alone chilled many great monarchs. Was he serious? It was said that the human emperor rose rapidly, but wasn't this growth speed too fast? On the other side, in the Rock Dragon auction house, Long Yan was lying on a comfortable recliner, drinking spiritual fruit wine. Suddenly, a rumbling sound spread throughout the entire ferocious God Valley. What's wrong? She was about to go out to take a look, but then she remembered that her identity was sensitive now. She had been serving as the human emperor's guide and hanging around in the ferocious God Valley for several days. Once someone noticed her, they would definitely catch her for questioning. At this moment, the only thing she had to do was to disappear. No matter what happened outside, she just wouldn't go out. Long Yan thought that she had obtained a total of 200 refined stars anyway. When her teacher's auction house opened next month, she would get another share, which was enough for her to cultivate for 100 years. In 100 years, who would remember that she had once taken the human emperor to tour the ferocious God Valley? However, at this moment, Li Yan rushed in from outside in shock. "Teacher, what's going on outside? Who is so bold as to fight in the ferocious God Valley?" However, Li Yan was sweating profusely and said nervously, "Little ancestor. We're doomed this time." Long Yan was dumbfounded. "Teacher, what happened?" Li Yan said, "The ferocious God Valley is only this big. Don't you know how fast the news spreads? Tianqing is fake, right?" Long Yan nodded. They had just taken the rock dragon to the tavern waiting for someone. Of course, this kind of thing couldn't be hidden from the eyes and ears of some people. However, had it been known so quickly? Li Yan asked, "Is that person human emperor?" Long Yan was stunned. "Teacher, how did you know?" "I didn't say anything." Li Yan said, "Do I need you to tell me?" Human Emperor Han Fei, boss you from the tavern waiting for someone, and another peak-level great monarch were fighting some strong masters of the Central Sea Divine Realm outside the ferocious God Valley. The projections of gods kept popping up. In the end, the Central Sea Divine Realm sent out a god-level powerhouse, and the bandit god was forced to fight personally. "We're doomed. We won't be able to leave the ferocious God Valley for the rest of our lives." Slurp. Long Yan was dumbfounded. Bandit God took action? That's right. I didn't even dare to look. It's too terrifying. That terrifying power, even a ripple can kill me. Even so, it's not that we can't leave the ferocious God Valley for the rest of our lives, right? Li Yan said, "You don't know this, but human Emperor Han Fei is related to the primordial divine race. As long as the primordial divine race doesn't decline, the Central Sea Divine Realm won't stop. Everyone related to Han Fei will be targeted by someone. Perhaps the gods don't have the time to keep an eye on us, but there might be others who suspect that we are colluding with Han Fei. In fact, Han Fei has indeed sold a lot of things to me. There are still a lot of spiritual treasures that we haven't sold yet. If we release them all, someone will definitely suspect us." Slurp slurp. Long Yan blinked and said, "Teacher, in fact, I think you don't have to worry too much. Didn't you just say that the bandit god has taken action? Think about it, the entire West Wilderness is protected by the bandit god. Even the bandit god wants to help human Emperor Han Fei, which shows that we should help him. In my opinion, since we can't get out for the time being, let's make a name for ourselves and earn more refined stars. The battle between the West Wilderness and the Central Sea Divine Realm will end eventually. Let's just treat it as cultivation and seclusion. Alas, that does make sense. That's all we can do for now." At the gate of the ferocious God Valley, Han Fei's eyes were slightly cold. "Is this the power of a god-slaying level powerhouse?" Yulinka said, "That is just a tip of the iceberg. The bandit god only briefly clashed with that person, so it's nothing. However, you can actually crack the concealing divine seal?" Han Fei frowned slightly. He wasn't sure if the supreme nature treasure wasn't powerful enough, or if the law of life contained too comprehensive a law. Han Fei said, "I can't be sure if there's something wrong with his concealing divine seal, or if my law happens to be able to restrain the ability of the concealing divine seal. However, this is a good thing. On the other side, Jiang Bai wasn't that shocked and panicked. He just frowned slightly. The god-slaying level powerhouse who attacked just now said, "How do you feel? After fighting this guy several times?" Jiang Bai thought for a moment. He's a little reckless, but he's too lucky. And grows too fast. He seems to have mastered the law of life. Oh? Why do you say that? Jiang Bai said, "I sensed that someone was peeping at my river of life, so I left the ferocious God Valley immediately." You know what happened later. In this era, can anyone still master the law of life? Even if they do, how can this law break the concealing divine seal? The god-slaying level powerhouse was silent for a moment and said, indifferently, "A supreme nature treasure is not absolutely invincible. Every supreme nature treasure has its own characteristics. Perhaps this law of life happens to be the flaw of the concealing divine seal. Okay, since there are some things that can't be obtained with wisdom, forget it. The person who obtains the demon purification pot seems to be invincible, but in history, no one has had a good ending." Jiang Bai narrowed his eyes slightly. He won't get what I can't get. Patriarch, I want to give the last demon purification vine to the eternal race. After a few seconds, the god-slaying level powerhouse said indifferently, "Only if the eternal race dares to take it." The corners of Jiang Bai's mouth curled up. They will take it. Even if they don't, now that the path of reincarnation has appeared again, the strong masters of the three temples and the sea of stars won't let them off in the future. Therefore, it would be a waste if they don't take this demon purification vine. Although no owner of the demon purification pot has had a good ending, after all, someone still wants to have a try. Up to you. Han Fei didn't know that Jiang Bai had a new plan. He was a little puzzled at this moment. Was he not strong enough? The three of them joined forces, but failed to take down Jiang Bai. At this moment, his identity had been exposed. With such a huge uproar, even if there were still strong masters from the Central Sea Divine Realm hiding in the ferocious God Valley before, most of them would have run away by now. After all, as long as these people knew of the existence of the vast ocean navigator, they would definitely be afraid. At this moment, countless people looked at him. Han Fei was not a monkey, and was not interested in being watched. The three of them disappeared with a swish and returned to the tavern. In the sea of stars outside Han Fei's origin star, Hong Yu, who was summoned by Han Fei, hurriedly exclaimed, "Master Human Emperor, you finally appeared." Han Fei said, "You make it sound like I've been away for a long time." Hong Yu said, "Maybe I'm used to it. Every time you leave, hundreds of years pass. It feels like a long time." Han Fei said, "Okay, I called you here because I have a few things for you to do." Hong Yu immediately looked solemn. Han Fei had disappeared for 300 years and suddenly appeared to say that he had something for him to do. It was definitely not a small matter. Han Fei said, "The first thing is that when you go back later, go to Xia Wuquan immediately and ask him to take you or Uncle Xian to the Hidden Monarch city in person. Find a person named Bai Zhe and tell him to protect the human race before the conflict between primordial divine race and the Central Sea Divine Realm is over. Tell him that if the divine descendants win, the human race will prosper. The second thing is to tell Han Song to go to the East Sword Pavilion in person to find Li Tiangan and invite him to visit the human race. He can do anything, take in disciples, pass by, eat, or visit. Anyway, as long as he goes there. The third thing is to ask the people of the divine capital dynasty to deliver my message to great monarch East Marshal. The fourth thing is to try every possible means to make the human race give birth to as many children as possible. Tell the entire human race that in the next 100 years, countless genius-talented children will be born. Han Fei said several things in one breath, and Hong Yu was highly nervous, fearing that he would miss a word. However, the matter of having more children had already begun when the human race took root in the infinite mining area. It seemed that the human emperor still didn't think it was enough. After saying these things, Han Fei said, "By the way, old Hong, how is he now?" Hong Yu immediately said, Missy has already grown up. Her personality." Han Fei's face changed slightly. "Don't tell me that her personality is like Yi Xian's." Hong Yu shook his head quickly. "Of course not. Missy's personality is still like yours, Master Human Emperor. She's very lively." "Like me? Lively? What does it mean?" Hong Yu thought to himself, "Don't you know what it means?" Hong Yu said, "As for Missy's strength, she could already fight peak level C establishers when she was only a peak level venerable. She finally broke through to the C establishment realm 3 years ago." Han Fei said, "Nonsense. No matter how strong a peak level venerable is, there is a limit. Don't fool me." Hong Yu said, "I'm really not lying to you. Missy's talent is too shocking. She masters many great Daos, combat skills, and even mastered divine techniques in advance. However, I don't know if I should say this." "Just say it. Don't hem and haw." Hong Yu asked, "Master Human Emperor, isn't the seal you set for Missy too difficult?" As a result, when Missy transcended the tribulation, the heavenly tribulations were all purple-black, which frightened us. Fortunately, she had your avatar and Senior Xia's protection. Otherwise, we wouldn't have dared to imagine what would happen." Han Fei frowned slightly. "It doesn't matter. Being able to break the barrier I set up means that she's strong enough to transcend the tribulation. By the way, who does she look like?" Hong Yu said, "Of course more like Miss Xiaochan." Han Fei was lost for words. "Not like me at all?" Hong Yu glanced at Han Fei. "If she looks like you, that's not good." Han Fei's face immediately darkened. "Why? Do you think I'm not as handsome as Zhang Xuanyu?" Hong Yu didn't speak, but judging from her attitude, he probably tacitly agreed. He changed the topic and said, "Master Human Emperor, do you want to see Missy? Although she doesn't say it, she really wants to see her parents." Han Fei was silent for a moment. "He's gone. I don't want to see her like this. Tell her that her father and mother will appear in front of her in the most grand way. But not now." Hong Yu sighed inwardly. "Okay, I'll tell her." After a pause, Han Fei took out a red hair band and handed it to Hong Yu. "Tell her that her mother gave this to her. No matter what method you use, it must be tied to her head." Hong Yu immediately became serious, thinking to himself, "Is it already so dangerous?" In a place like the infinite mining area, Master Human Emperor still had to personally deliver a life-saving item to Missy. Hong Yu immediately said, "I won't let you down, Master Human Emperor." 1 month later. Han Fei frowned. Although the time chain had been upgraded to 1024 times the Time flew, the consumption was still far beyond his expectations. He didn't expect that the consumption of resources this time was 200 times more than last time. A total of 130,000 refined stars were consumed because of the upgrading of the time chain. This made Han Fei feel a little lucky. Fortunately, he didn't try to upgrade the time chain before. Otherwise, he would have been squeezed dry. However, he was also a little distressed at this moment. This was only the 8th vine. If the 9th vine returned, would he still dare to upgrade the time chain? After more than a month, the time chain finally upgraded, and Han Fei finally continued to cultivate in seclusion. Until the issue of the Central Sea Divine Realm was resolved, he would not find inner peace. Now, he had to continue to cultivate in seclusion. If he wanted to break the strongest record of the Primordial Tower, he wasn't qualified yet. At this moment, in a certain mine in the infinite mining area, a girl in green had a delicate face, which was a little round, and there was a hint of melancholy in her bright eyes. She held a long knife in her hand and had a red ribbon on her head. Opposite her was a mine demon stone man at the peak of the sea establishment realm. At this moment, he was waving his fists and smashing at the girl. The girl held the knife high above her head. Bang! A dull bang suddenly sounded here, and billowing airwaves swept nearly 1,000 kilometers around. However, the girl stood where she was without moving at all. She just raised her hand gently and spun the long knife in her hand. With this slight turn, the mine demon stone man lost his balance and leaned forward. At this moment, the girl raised her leg and kicked out in the air. Bang! The huge mine demon stone man was kicked away like a round stone ball. He smashed 6 mountains in a row like a meteor and finally left a long ravine on the ground. The mine demon stone man struggled for a long time before getting up. He roared, clenched his fists, and sprinted at the girl as fast as he could. He seemed to be very angry. How could he be sent flying by such a small thing? As for the girl, she looked calm. She raised her hand and took a deep breath. Spiritual energy surged behind her like a tide, and the blood and chi in her body couldn't dissipate. She also clenched a fist and smashed it at the mine demon stone man. Bang! The ripples exploded in all directions, and gravel flew all over the sky. This mine demon at the peak of the sea establishment realm was actually blown up by this girl with a bare hand. And this girl's strength was only in the early sea establishment realm. You sneaked out again. Even my mother told you not to go out recently. It's not peaceful. Don't you know my mother's personality? If even she is careful, you have to be even more careful. This girl was naturally Han Chani, Han Fei's biological daughter. Han Chani curled her lips and then grimaced. Sister Panpan, there you are. Zhang Panpan looked at the minerals all over the ground and shook her head slightly. If you have the time, don't waste it on this. Go find Patriarch. Xia. You can fight him. Han Chani curled her lips. I'm not going. He throws out clones to fight me. Every time. It's very tiring. Zhang Panpan giggled. You know, tired? Okay, stop sulking. Go back. Han Chani was reluctantly dragged by Zhang Panpan and mumbled, I'm not sulking, but he's already out to see Uncle Hongyu. Why doesn't he want to see me? He just gave me a broken hairband. I heard from the grandpa president that he stole my mother's heart with a hairband back then, and now he wants To use this trick on me too. Zhang Panpan rolled her eyes. Be content. At least your father gave you something and still has an avatar here. Look at my father. I've never seen him. And he doesn't leave an avatar behind. I don't even know where he is or if he is meddling with some sluts outside. He abandoned my poor mother and me in the infinite mining area but is enjoying himself. Han Chani hurriedly said, don't worry. My father must be watching him. Zhang Panpan snorted. Who knows? However, Uncle Human Emperor didn't see you. Probably because he was afraid that seeing you would stir up emotional attachments. Grandpa President said that they are actually very lazy. If it weren't for the fact that they really couldn't come back, they would have come back long ago. Humph. Han Chani didn't speak, but she tacitly agreed. Just as she was about to follow Zhang Panpan back, suddenly, mist appeared around her, and vines and demon plants covered her feet. Zhang Panpan's expression changed drastically. Not good, a trapping array. Han Chani drew her broadsword in an instant. The dazzling broadsword beam passed through the vines, but it couldn't even shake a blade of grass. Divine demon forest? Zhang Panpan and Han Chani looked at each other. If it was a human manipulator, they were too familiar with them. Their plants would not appear by such a large area like now, but would have needed manipulation. TSK. You're only in the early sea establishment realm, but you've already had such combat power? Han Fei's daughter is indeed extraordinary. A man in a purple robe walked out of the smoke. The suppressing pressure released by him made Zhang Panpan and Han Chani unable to move. Zhang Panpan said, how dare you? This is the territory of our human race. In the middle is the free city of our human race, in the south is the lineage of ferocious beasts, in the west is the hidden monarch city, and in the north is the half-god, Grandpa Xia Wuqian. How dare you attack us here? Do you want to die? The purple-robed man chuckled. That's why I spent so much time setting up a trap here before I took action today. Little girl, you don't know anything. There's no such realm in this world as half-god. He's just a great monarch. Isn't it? He glanced at Han Chani and Zhang Panpan. He didn't intend to waste time. He had to hide well to avoid the heavily guarded infinite mining area. This person grabbed at the two of them with one hand and materialized his origin star world, trying to take them in. However, at the moment he attacked, a soaring chi and blood instantly tore through the layers of seals here. The tie that tied Han Chani's hair fell off voluntarily and straightened. All the laws here were instantly extracted and turned into a powerful slash. How is it possible? How can a mere nature spiritual treasure control all laws? Here? Bang! An extremely dazzling knife light crushed the entire mining area, and the endless vines here were instantly reduced to powder. As for the great monarch, on the opposite side, the countless array barriers around the ruins were all shattered. In the end, he was crushed by this knife light and his body disintegrated. However, his soul managed to hold on with a mirror. Han Chani and Zhang Panpan were so dazzled by the brilliance of the ultimate slash that they burst into tears and couldn't look straight at it. When they could see clearly, they saw a majestic figure tens of thousands of feet tall, standing in front of them. You are not from the Divine Demon Forest, but you can pretend to be from the Divine Demon Forest. Heaven-hidden divine race, I will go to the Central Sea, Divine Realm, to find you. The great monarch was shocked. He had planned for a long time to get this opportunity, but in the end, he couldn't even resist the power of the human emperor's single slash? Was the human emperor so powerful? However, there was no time for him to think. He had to escape immediately and pretend to be someone else to avoid this disaster. However, just as he tried to escape, a sharp claw pierced through the wisp of soul. The body of a big crab appeared in the void. Xia Wuquan chuckled. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Who knew that you would lie low for hundreds of years and only take action now? Swish swish swish. One figure after another quickly came over. Han Chani, on the other hand, was staring at the magnificent figure standing in front of her. Han Fei's spiritual will turned around and their eyes met. However, Han Fei's spiritual will was only enough to launch this blow. At this moment, it had faded away and disappeared from the world, turning into a red ribbon again. Swish. Han Song appeared and held the red belt. A large amount of soul power poured into the belt. Yes, Han Song was equivalent to his original body. Although it was not as strong as his original body, it could replenish the power of the straps. He came to Han Chani and naturally stroked her hair. Did you see that? These people from the Central Sea Divine Realm are really vicious. Don't run around alone in the future. Humph. They dared to attack because you didn't come back. Han Song smiled and said, "What are you talking about? Haven't I always been like this? It's different." Han Chani said stubbornly, but she was staring at the scene in front of her. The mineral veins within tens of thousands of kilometers were flattened, and a huge abyss appeared hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, in which knife Qi swept across. Han Xian, who had just arrived, looked awful. Are those people from the Central Sea Divine Realm already so unscrupulous? Xia Wuquan clicked his tongue. What a pity. Han Fei, you destroyed his body. Otherwise, we might have been able to have a full meal. Han Song said, Senior Xia, when I come back in the future, you can eat as much as you want. You can choose whatever variety you want. Then, Han Song sprinkled many seeds around the abyss, and they began to grow. Uncle Xian, this place can only be sealed as a forbidden area. Han Xian nodded slightly and then looked at Han Chani and Zhang Panpan. In a few days, the first sword god, Li Tiangan, will visit the free city. He said that he could take in a few disciples. Are you interested? That's a real god, even stronger than your father. Han Chani curled her lips slightly. Let's see. 1 year later. On Han Fei's origin star, a large number of refined stars turned into dead stars, and infinite energy was absorbed into the ground veins of his origin star. To Han Fei's surprise, it was not easy to fuse the eternal darkness spiritual heritage with the ground veins. In 1,000 years, only half of it was completed. 2 years passed. Han Fei spent a total of 90,000 refined stars and nearly 30,000 energy crystals to fuse the eternal darkness spiritual heritage with the ground veins. However, as soon as the two spiritual heritages fused, Han Fei discovered that his origin star didn't seem to be able to withstand the flow of the two spiritual heritages. This was just like how the body couldn't carry a powerful and extraordinary spiritual heritage. Although Han Fei's origin star had been strengthened countless times, from the mystic yellow soil to the chaotic spiritual soil, it was still not enough. Having no choice, Han Fei could only continue to cultivate in seclusion. It had taken Han Fei nearly 2,000 years to fuse with the ground veins alone. Now, Han Fei wasn't sure if he had enough resources to fuse with the entire origin star. 1 year. 2 years. 10 years. 50 years. When Han Fei woke up from his cultivation, 50 years had passed in the outside world, but 50,000 years had passed in his origin star. And this was not that he took the initiative to stop cultivating, but that his resources were used up. Yes, a total of 770,000 refined stars. Apart from the 130,000 that upgraded the time chain, a total of 640,000 refined stars were swallowed by him. Han Fei didn't even dare to imagine this number. He finally understood why the god of war was so short of resources. How could he not be short of resources? A great monarch could only provide 100,000 refined stars of this quality. This swallowing was equivalent to swallowing 6 great monarchs. It turned out that the path of the supreme divine technique was different from the path of ordinary great monarchs. One set up the refined stars outside his origin star, and the other swallowed the refined stars. No wonder the supreme divine technique was also called the star-devouring divine technique. It turned out to mean this. It was laughable that he had always thought that the star-devouring divine technique was to shatter stars and make them surround his origin star to strengthen his star core. Now, he finally understood. But more importantly, after consuming so many refined stars, Han Fei found that the degree of fusion of his origin stars was less than 1/5, and he had fused only 1,000 laws. This meant that if he wanted to reach the peak of the great monarch realm, he still needed countless resources. However, the only good news was that although his origin star hadn't completely fused with him, it could already withstand the flow of the ground veins. Han Fei knew that he had to go out to make money. He couldn't help but look at his information. Owner, Han Fei. Level, 119, Great Monarch. Bloodline ranking among the clans in the Infinite Ocean, the 3,801st. Immortal Chi, 13,602. Soul, 59,842 Origins. Strength, 59,842 Star Powers. First Spiritual Heritage, Origin Spiritual Heritage. Second Spiritual Heritage, Eternal Darkness Spiritual Heritage. First Spiritual Beast, Twin Yin-Yang Sky Swallowing Fish, Level 118. Second Spiritual Beast, the Emperor Sparrow, Level 116. Main Art, God-Fiend Body. Seeing this data, the corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. He was sure again that the basic combat power of the God of War definitely exceeded the 100,000 level. He had only fused with the second spiritual heritage and 1/5 of his origin star, but he had already surpassed the level of an ordinary peak level. Great Monarch. If he had enough resources, he would probably be able to reach the level of a peak level extreme Tao Great Monarch in another 100 years. The problem was that his star core hadn't been fused yet. However, Han Fei seemed to have neglected one thing, which was that the God of War didn't have a second spiritual heritage. Buzz. Han Fei appeared in the tavern waiting for someone. He glanced around and found Chu Hao sitting on a chair reading a book with a pot of tea in front of him. There were 2 tables of guests around. They were attracted by Han Fei's sudden appearance and seemed to know who he was. They couldn't help but look at him curiously for a while. Yulinka looked up at Han Fei with a dark expression. You missed the gathering several times. Han Fei scratched his head awkwardly and said, Senior, I was cultivating in seclusion and I couldn't stop halfway. Humph. Next time, you must participate in the gathering. Han Fei quickly nodded. Of course, of course. I won't miss it next time. Then, Han Fei came to sit opposite Chu Hao. Why are you still here? Chu Hao said calmly, if not here, where can I be? From what I know of you. You've been in seclusion for a long time this time. Han Fei sighed in his heart. Then, he thought of something and said in a low voice, well, how about lending me some refined stars? Chu Hao couldn't help but look up at Han Fei. You want to borrow from me? Don't you know how many refined stars you have? Han Fei simply said, I've used them up. Cough, cough. Chu Hao immediately stood up and looked at Han Fei in shock. What? Han Fei frowned. They're really used up. Chu Hao was speechless. Are you kidding me? Han Fei said, now that things have come to this point, I have nothing to hide. The supreme divine technique I practice requires too many resources. Chu Hao was silent for a moment. I used to rely on you for resources. After I came to the West Wilderness, I came straight to the ferocious God Valley. Before I had the time to get resources. How many refined stars do you think I have? Han Fei asked, what about energy crystals? Chu Hao raised his eyebrows. It's not cheap to stay in the tavern. I've been here for more than 300 years and I'm about to spend all my money. If you're not in a hurry, I'll go to the primordial tower to get some resources for you. Okay? Han Fei looked at Chu Hao speechlessly and said leisurely, I'm afraid you are the poorest great monarch I've ever seen. Chu Hao. Chu Hao said, to be honest, if you want resources, you have to go to the primordial tower early. Of course I'll go. After speaking to Chu Hao, Han Fei got up, walked to the counter, and came to Yulinka. Well, sister-in-law. Wait. Yulinka interrupted Han Fei. What did you call me? Sister-in-law. Yulinka put on a rare smile. Speak, what's the matter? Han Fei said, sister-in-law, I'm short of money. Can I borrow some refined stars from you? I promise I'll pay you back double in the future. Yulinka asked, how much do you want? Han Fei was immediately refreshed. It seemed that he had to find the right person to rely on. He said, lend me 1,000,000 first. *CK off. Han Fei. Yulinka rolled her eyes. Where can I steal 1,000,000 refined stars for you? With such a small tavern? Han Fei asked, sister-in-law, your shop has been open for hundreds of thousands of years, right? Yulinka sneered. Then do you know how many people I've raised over the past hundreds of thousands of years? It's inconvenient for many people in my race to appear, let alone come out. Every time, I give them resources from my origin star. I can't make ends meet. I've only saved for more than 300 years. How much money do you think I have? Han Fei asked, well, sister-in-law, didn't you catch some captives to sell? Yulinka looked at Han Fei deeply. Do you think I can walk out of the ferocious God Valley? Sorry to disturb you. Han Fei was disappointed. It wasn't easy for everyone these days. Suddenly, Han Fei thought of something. Sister-in-law, do you think I can leave the ferocious God Valley now? The god-slaying level powerhouses from the Central Sea Divine Realm won't dare to touch me, right? Yulinka asked, you want to catch captives? Han Fei nodded quickly. What could make money faster than catching captives? Killing the ominous in the primordial tower? That was possible, but he mainly thought the resource form of energy crystals was too monotonous. Yulinka said, "That's fine, but I'm afraid your void mark will be forced out. But it's not bad. Why don't you ask the strong masters of the Void Temple to help you? If you solve the bloodline problem of the divine descendants, I can mobilize the strong masters of the entire primordial divine race to help you make money. At that time, we can get you as many resources as you want." Forget it. I'll think about it. Hanfei thought to himself, how long will it take? Once the problem of your divine bloodline is resolved, there will definitely be a large number of strong masters who want to transcend the godly divine tribulation. Then how can there be resources for me? By the time they get resources for me, it would probably be thousands or even 800 years later. Hanfei asked, "Sister-in-law, do you think I can borrow resources from the bandit god?" Yulinka smiled. Although the bandit god has been attacking frequently recently, ask how many people in the ferocious God Valley have seen the bandit god. Everyone knows that the bandit god is here, but they don't know where the bandit god is. Why don't you go to the street and call for him? Forget it. Hanfei asked, "What about fighting in the arena?" Yulinka asked, "Who will fight you? Besides, how can there be so many great monarch-level battles in the arena?" Hanfei asked, "Then I can only enter the primordial tower to take the trials?" Yulinka said, "To be precise, among the 7 trials of the primordial tower, only the most profitable one is the ominous battlefield. On the ominous battlefield you'll be sent to by the primordial tower, you can not only earn energy crystals, but also refined stars. Of course, you can also enter other trial fields of the primordial tower to see if you can catch some captives. However, under normal circumstances, people who are not from the West wilderness won't enter the trial fields of the primordial tower. Once they enter, they may face the siege of all the strong masters from the West wilderness. It's no different from courting death. However, there are some conceited people or some spies from the Central Sea divine realm who might sneak in. Hanfei said, "Then I'd better go to the ominous battlefield first." If he wanted to break the trial records, he had to have strength. If he wanted strength, he had to have resources. Fortunately, he still had time. Since even Yulinka and the others were not in a hurry, he didn't need to be in a hurry either. In the end, Hanfei turned around and asked Chu Hao at the table, "Did they come out when I was cultivating in seclusion?" Chu Hao said, "They often came out, but you were not around. There are only a few trials in the primordial tower. You'll have to encounter them sooner or later." Hanfei nodded. "Okay, then it's time for me to challenge the tower." In front of the primordial tower, Hanfei didn't expect to set a new record all at once. They were all the strongest records left behind in the endless years. Although his strength had improved greatly again, he was still inferior to those people. In front of the tower, Hanfei's arrival attracted the attention of many people. Every day, many strong masters came and went in the primordial tower, but there were almost no great monarchs entering or leaving. Therefore, the appearance of a great monarch could still cause a commotion. "Look, that's human Emperor Hanfei. Ah. It's really him. Has he finally come to challenge the tower?" Definitely. A powerhouse of this level shouldn't be interested in resources. Otherwise, why would he cultivate in seclusion for 50 years? His cultivation time is too short. I heard that he hasn't been a great monarch for long. No matter how long it takes, he can already capture great monarchs. I wonder which trial he is going to pass. Shall we follow them? That's exactly my plan. Let's go together.